Triad 1. Attention, presence, clarity, lesser mysteries, gate of awakening. Stage 1. Exoteric. Attention, the basic act of noticing what is happening. Presence, staying with what you notice without immediately escaping or distracting. Clarity, seeing the situation, yourself, and your options accurately. Stage 2. Structural philosophical. Attention corresponds to the soul turned outward, mixed with body and impressions. I1. Presence is the soul beginning to stand in itself, not wholly identified with the flux of sensation. Clarity is the first participation in intellective light, the inner man seeing, not just the composite. In Plotinian terms, the lower part of soul starts to align with new by sustained, focused seeing. Stage 3. Esoteric attention is scattered light. Each time you notice, I am not here, a small ray of your being returns from exile. Presence is when those rays collect. You inhabit the body, the breath, the room, the feeling without fleeing. Clarity is the moment the gathered light reveals pattern. This is what is actually happening. This is what my soul truly wants. This triad is the first magic of the work. You stop living as a reflex and begin to live as a witness. Every later triad presupposes this one. Triad 2. Desire, choice, direction. Stage 1. Exoteric. Desire, wanting something, pleasure, approval, safety, power, truth. Choice, selecting one desire or path over another. Direction, the stable line created by repeated choices in the same orientation. Stage 2. Structural, philosophical. Desire, or exis, is the appetitive soul, the first movement toward the good as it appears. Choice, prohairesis, is the rational faculty judging between apparent goods, I2. Direction is the formation of ethos, a habitual orientation of the soul toward a certain kind of good, I4 to 5. Here, eros begins as mixed, is judged by reason, and becomes a stable vector toward the intelligible. Stage 3. Esoteric desire is raw fire. At first it burns in many directions: body, image, fantasy, fear. Choice is when the soul takes the fire in hand. I will not follow every spark. I turn this flame toward what is truly worthy. Direction is the invisible line that forms when this is done again and again. Over time, the scattered fire becomes a single ray pointing toward the higher. In this triad, eros stops being your master and becomes your instrument. The soul begins to move with purpose instead of compulsion. Triad 3. Confusion, sorting, understanding. Stage 1. Exoteric. Confusion, not knowing what you feel, think, or should do. Sorting, distinguishing different elements, feelings, facts, beliefs, influences. Understanding, grasping how these elements relate and what they mean. Stage 2. Structural, philosophical. Confusion equals the soul as mixed and unexamined, I1, I8. Sorting equals the activity of dialectic, separating true from false, one power from another, I3. Understanding, a stable logos about oneself and reality, a faint echo of noetic grasp. It is the movement from doxa, opinion, through dialectical work into noetic alignment. Stage 3. Esoteric confusion is not failure. It is raw material. The soul feels many voices at once, family, culture, trauma, instinct, and calls the noise I. Sorting is the slow, sacred work of taking each voice in hand. This is fear, this is grief, this is inherited belief, this is genuine intuition. Understanding is when the pieces fall into an ordered image. You see the pattern of your life as a path, not a tangle. This triad initiates inner discernment. You stop treating every inner movement as truth and begin to recognize which currents can carry you upward. Triad 4. Restlessness, focus, stability. Stage 1. Exoteric. Restlessness, inability to stay still, constant agitation or distraction. Focus, voluntarily directing your attention to one task, object, or practice. Stability, the capacity to remain focused and steady over time. Stage 2. Structural, philosophical. Restlessness is the soul scattered in time, attached to many external aims, I4, I5. Focus is the move towards single-heartedness, a precursor to contemplation. Stability resembles the Plotinian established character, hexis, and the quiet of a soul ordered by virtue. Here the soul passes from dispersion in temporal multiplicity toward a more eternal-like abiding. Stage 3. Esoteric restlessness is the soul's fear of meeting itself. It runs from task to task, screen to screen, person to person, so it never has to feel its own hunger. Focus is the first loving refusal to run. I will stay with this one thing, this breath, this practice, this conversation, this page. Stability is when this staying becomes second nature, like a bowl that no longer tips when water is poured in. This triad fashions the still point required for deeper seeing. Without it, higher lights cannot rest in you. Triad 5, error, correction, improvement. Stage 1, exoteric, error, making a mistake in judgment, action, or perception. Correction, recognizing the mistake and adjusting. Improvement, becoming better through learning from error. Stage 2, structural philosophical. Error arises from ignorance and misdirected desire, I8. Correction is the intervention of reason aligned with the good, often via consequence. Improvement is the strengthening of virtue, the soul more closely resembling its intelligible form. This triad shows Plotinus' view that evil is privation, and that encountering it can occasion ascent. Stage 3, esoteric error, is misaimed eros, the soul reaching for light and grabbing shadow. Correction is mercy, reality answering your mistake with pain, friction, or insight so you can see where you misaimed. Improvement is the secret harvest. Each time you admit and adjust, your inner geometry becomes truer. This triad teaches you to stop hating your mistakes. They are part of the initiatory curriculum. The only real failure is refusing to let error be transmuted into deeper accuracy. Triad 6, impulse, restraint, self-control. Stage 1, exoteric, impulse, immediate reaction, emotional, bodily, verbal, without reflection. Restraint, holding back the impulse long enough to choose. Self-control, having a stable ability to regulate impulses according to reason. Stage 2, structural, philosophical. Impulse equals movements of the irrational soul, desire, anger. Restraint equals the rule of reason beginning to govern these powers. 2. Self-control equals the virtue of sophrosyne, harmony among parts of the soul. This corresponds to Plotinus' civic and purificatory virtues, forming the soul so it can resemble the intelligible. Stage 3, esoteric impulse, is old karma trying to move through you. Inherited reactions, ancestral patterns, collective fields. Restraint is the first miracle. A gap opens between feeling and action. In that gap, the higher soul can breathe. Self-control is when that gap becomes a throne. The higher part of you consistently governs the lower without violence. This triad proves to you that you are not identical with your reactions. Once you taste that freedom, the path of transformation truly begins. Triad 7, reflection, peace. Stage 1, exoteric. Anger, intense displeasure or hostility in response to perceived injury. Reflection, stepping back to examine the cause, proportion, and meaning of anger. Peace, a state where the charge is dissolved and a just response, or non-response, emerges. Stage 2, structural philosophical. Anger belongs to the spirited part, thymos, which can serve either justice or ego, I2. Reflection allows reason to examine whether anger aligns with the good. Peace is the harmony that arises when spirited power is integrated and ordered. This reflects the Plotinian integration of the passionate powers into an inner justice. Stage 3. Esoteric anger is the soul's fire protesting a perceived violation. Sometimes it protects the small self. Sometimes it guards the image of the good. Reflection is the sacred pause where you ask, what exactly am I defending? My pride, my wound, or something truly just? Peace is not numbness. It is the calm of a soul whose fire has been aligned with truth. This triad teaches you to refine anger into discernment, then into courageous, quiet strength. Triad 8. Fear, inquiry, courage. Stage 1, exoteric. Fear, anticipation of loss, pain, or danger. Inquiry, honestly exploring what is feared and why. Courage, acting or standing in alignment with the good despite fear. Stage 2, structural, philosophical. Fear often arises from attachment to the bodily and temporal, I4, I8. Inquiry is the work of reason examining appearances. Is this truly harmful? What is at stake? Courage is a virtue by which the soul asserts its kinship with the intelligible, not being ruled by lower threats. This moves from the mixed life, dominated by external fortune, to a life centered in the soul. Stage 3. Esoteric fear is the animal in you trying to keep its world intact. Inquiry is turning the light toward the fear instead of away from it. What do I think this will take from me? Who taught me to be afraid? Courage is not the disappearance of fear, but the recognition that your being is larger than what can be taken. This triad is a gate. Each time you pass through fear with inquiry and courage, more of your soul detaches from the realm of threat and stands in its native height. Triad 9. Shame, honesty, integrity. Stage 1. Exoteric. Shame. painful self-consciousness about perceived defect, failure, or unworthiness. Honesty, facing what is actually true about your actions and state. Integrity, living in alignment with your real values and nature. Stage 2, structural philosophical. Shame can be a distorted echo of the soul's memory of the higher, twisted by comparison and judgment. Honesty is the intellective part illuminating the mixed, shadowed self. Integrity is a soul whose parts agree, reason, desire, and action harmonized, I2, I4. This triad moves from a passion rooted in ignorance to a state closer to likeness to the divine. Stage 3. Esoteric shame is the pain of seeing yourself without love. It often mixes real insight with cruelty and distortion. Honesty is the act of standing in the light without flinching. This is what I have done. This is what I am capable of. This is also what I am called to. Integrity is when your outer life gradually matches this honest seeing. This triad transforms shame from a crushing weight into a doorway. When viewed without lies, your flaws become the precise places where the work wants to enter. Triad 10. Forgetfulness, recall, recollection. Stage 1. Exoteric, forgetfulness, losing track of what matters, of commitments, of deeper intentions. Recall, remembering specific facts, events, or promises. Recollection, remembering from a deeper level who you are and what you are for. Stage 2. Structural, philosophical. Forgetfulness is the soul's descent and immersion in the bodily, all 3 to 4. Recall is ordinary memory, associated with the composite man. Recollection, anamnesis, is the soul's remembrance of its intelligible origin. This is explicitly Plotinian. The higher part of the soul remembers its native realm and turns back. Stage 3, esoteric forgetfulness, is living as if this world is all there is. You identify with roles, problems, and passing moods. Recall is when you start to remember practices, insights, promises to yourself. Your path flickers back into awareness. Recollection is deeper. An ache for home that is not about any place or person, but about the level of being you came from. This triad marks the first stirring of homesickness for Newf. Once recollection has touched you, no life built only on forgetting will ever fully satisfy again. Triad 11. Habit, awareness, mastery. Stage 1. Exoteric. Habit, repeated patterns of thought, feeling, or action that run automatically. Awareness, noticing the habit as it happens. Mastery, being able to shape, redirect, or release habits at will. Stage 2. Structural, philosophical. Habit, ethos, is the formed second nature of the soul. Awareness is the noetic light noticing this conditioning. Mastery is virtue in the full sense, a habitual alignment with the good, I2, I4. Plotinus sees habit both as bondage and as the means by which the soul can stabilize in a higher form. Stage 3. Esoteric habit is crystallized past, choices and reactions that became grooves. Awareness is when the witness in you wakes up inside the groove. I am doing it again. At first, this does not stop the pattern, but it opens a crack. Mastery is when the pattern reverses. Instead of habit running you, you consciously train new habits that serve the ascent. This triad is the alchemy of time in the soul. Your history ceases to be destiny and becomes material for deliberate shaping. Triad 12. Fragmentation, order, coherence. Stage 1. Exoteric, fragmentation, feeling scattered, divided, or internally inconsistent. Order, arranging parts into a more functional pattern. Coherence, feeling and being put together, a unified sense of self and purpose. Stage 2. Structural, philosophical. Fragmentation corresponds to the soul divided among many objects and impulses. Order is the work of logos, assigning each part its place under reason, I4. Coherence is an image of the simple form the soul is meant to mirror, a unity in which multiplicity is harmonized, I6, V8. This triad recapitulates the Plotinian move from dispersed multiplicity toward unified form. Stage 3. Esoteric fragmentation feels like being many people at once. One part wants this, another wants that. One believes, another doubts. One remembers the path, another wants to forget. Order is the patient work of giving each part a name, a place, and a relationship to the center. Nothing is thrown away, but nothing is allowed to rule alone. Coherence is when a center of gravity forms in the higher soul. The parts orbit it instead of colliding. This triad closes the first book of the Lesser Mysteries. It forges a vessel strong enough to hold the darker shadow work that follows. Triad 13. Grief, acceptance, transformation. Stage 1. Exoteric, grief, pain over loss of people, hopes, health, status, certainty. Acceptance, allowing the fact of the loss without denial or bargaining. Transformation, becoming somehow different and deeper because of what was lost. Stage 2, structural, philosophical. Grief belongs to the soul's attachment to temporal goods and bodily life. Acceptance is reason, recognizing the ordained order of becoming and passing away. Transformation is the soul using suffering to loosen attachment and turn more firmly toward what does not pass. In Plotinian terms, grief exposes where the soul clings. Accepted rightly, it becomes a force for ascent. Stage 3, esoteric grief breaks the shell of the ordinary self. At first, it feels like death. The world that gave you meaning has been torn. Acceptance is the moment you stop fighting reality with fantasies of if only and why me. You bow to what has already happened. Transformation is when, out of that bow, a new center of being appears. Your value is no longer anchored in what was taken, but in what cannot be taken. This triad shows that deep loss is an initiatory fire. If you stay with it without lying, it burns away false gods and makes room for a truer life. Triad 14, pleasure. Moderation, freedom. Stage 1, exoteric, pleasure, the enjoyment of satisfying bodily or emotional appetites. Moderation, limiting pleasure so it does not damage health, relationships, or purpose. Freedom, the state of not being ruled by pleasure, able to enjoy or abstain. Stage 2, structural, philosophical. Pleasure is not evil in itself, it is a sign of conformity to our nature, but easily becomes a tyrant. Moderation, Sophrosane, ensures that desire serves the soul's true good, not the other way round. Freedom is when rational soul rules desire, imaging the order of intellect rather than the chaos of appetite. The triad moves from sensual enslavement toward a measured joy compatible with contemplative life. Stage 3, esoteric pleasure is a language. It tells you something in me touches something it was made for, but taken as a god, blinds. Moderation is not hatred of pleasure. It is honoring what pleasure points to without letting the sign replace the reality. You start to ask, does this delight strengthen or scatter my soul? Freedom is when you can taste and also walk away, because your deepest joy is no longer in the sensation, but in the alignment behind it. This triad weans Eros from addiction to symbols and prepares it to recognize higher forms of sweetness. Triad 15. Desire, limit, sufficiency. Stage 1, exoteric. Desire, wanting more comfort, recognition, power, experiences. Limit, recognizing a boundary, you cannot and need not have everything. Sufficiency, the felt sense that what I have and am, rightly ordered, is enough. Stage 2, structural philosophical. Desire for lower goods tends toward indefinite expansion because they never fully satisfy. Limit introduces measure, metron, a key principle in Plotinian beauty and goodness. Sufficiency is akin to autarkia, the soul's contentment rooted in its relation to the intelligible, not in possessions. This moves the soul from boundless craving toward measured participation in the good. Stage 3, esoteric desire without limit feels like life, always chasing, always expanding the horizon. But underneath is a terror of emptiness. Limit is the sacred no that reveals your finitude. One body, one lifespan, one set of real tasks. At first, this feels like confinement, then like clarity. Sufficiency appears when you stand within your true measure and discover that it is spacious. The soul feels full not because it has everything, but because it is rightly related to what it has. This triad cures the spiritual disease of more and opens the gate to gratitude. Triad 16, pain, bearing, insight. Stage 1, exoteric. Pain, physical, emotional, or existential suffering. Bearing, enduring the pain without fleeing into denial, distraction, or cruelty. Insight, the new understanding that emerges through lived, endured suffering. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Pain reveals the soul's dependence on the contingent and its vulnerability. Bearing is the exercise of courage and endurance, virtues that steady the soul. Insight is the soul's reevaluation of goods and evils, often realigning with the intelligible hierarchy of value. The triad shows how suffering, for Plotinus, can become a teacher, turning the soul from externals to the inner. Stage 3. Esoteric pain is a teacher whose language is sharp. At first, all you can say is, make it stop. Bearing is not passive resignation. It is an active, awake staying with. You refuse both to dramatize and to numb. In that sustained contact, something quieter begins to speak. Insight. You may see how your life has been aimed, what you have been fleeing, or what truly matters. This triad initiates the alchemy by which suffering ripens into wisdom instead of bitterness. Triad 17. Conflict, mediation, harmony. Stage 1. Exoteric. Conflict. Clashing aims, needs, or beliefs inside oneself or with others. Mediation. Listening, negotiating, or finding a middle way. Harmony. A state where differences coexist in a balanced, non-destructive way. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Conflict mirrors the inner division of the soul when reason, desire, and spirit pull apart. Mediation corresponds to reason taking its rightful role, discerning and assigning each part its due. Harmony is justice in the soul, each part doing its function under the rule of the higher, I2, I4. The outward and inward social orders reflect the same metaphysical principle. Stage 3. Esoteric conflict is revelation. It shows where two truths or two illusions collide. When you meet it only with attack or flight, you remain blind to its message. Mediation is the inner act of placing yourself between the warring forces, your anger and fear, your need and theirs, and listening for the higher order that can hold both without destruction. Harmony is not erasing difference but tuning it, like instruments in an ensemble. This triad trains you to read every conflict, inside and out, as a chance to discover a more spacious order. Triad 18. Envy, discernment, generosity. Stage 1. Exoteric. Envy, pain at another's good, wanting what they have or wanting them not to have it. Discernment, seeing clearly what their good is, what yours is, and how they differ. Generosity, taking joy in another's good and acting for their benefit. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Envy arises from identifying the self with lower comparative goods, status, possessions. Discernment uses reason to distinguish different functions and gifts in the order of soul. Generosity flows from recognition that goods of the soul and intelligible realm are non-rivalrous. One's gain need not be another's loss. Thus, the soul moves from competitive scarcity toward participation in an abundant good. Stage 3. Esoteric envy is a distorted prayer. It points to a longing in you by fixating on someone else's light. Discernment is asking, what exactly in them awakens my pain? Is it something I truly lack, or something I fear never to realize? As you see this, their gift ceases to be a threat and becomes a mirror. Generosity is when you can bless that gift in them while allowing your own to unfold in its own form and timing. This triad turns envy into guidance. Every pang becomes a clue to your own unlived radiance. Triad 19. Pride, humility, right measure. Stage 1. Exoteric. Pride, inflated sense of self-importance, overvaluation of one's role or qualities. Humility, honest recognition of one's limits, dependence, and place among others. Right measure, a clear, stable sense of one's true scale, neither inflated nor self-diminished. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Pride mistakes derived goods, skills, successes as self-originated. Humility is the soul's awareness that it is from another and for another. It is an image, not the source. Right measure aligns with metron and symmetry. The soul finds its proper proportion within the greater order. This restores likeness to intellect, which is great precisely by not usurping the one. Stage 3. Esoteric pride is the fantasy that you are the sun rather than a star. It isolates you, because everything becomes a mirror for your own specialness or failure. Humility is not self-hatred. It is coming into true scale. You are a ray, not the source. And this is good news. Right measure is when you stand in that ray with full strength, neither shrinking nor swelling, but shining according to your nature. This triad protects higher experiences from corrupting the soul. As gifts increase, so does alignment with the true center beyond me. Triad 20. Laziness, effort, steadiness. Stage 1. Exoteric. Laziness. Habitual avoidance of necessary effort, inertia. Effort, choosing to act even when you do not feel like it. Steadiness, a consistent capacity to apply yourself over time. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Laziness lets the soul sink into passivity under bodily impulses and external circumstances. Effort is the initial ascent of soul, asserting its power to move itself toward the good. Steadiness is habituated energia, a stable actuality, one of the marks of virtue in Plotinus. The soul becomes more like intellect, which is ongoing activity, not a flicker. Stage 3. Esoteric laziness is forgetfulness in slow motion. You know what matters, but drift away from it. Effort is the first small defiance. You pick up the text, sit on the cushion, start the work, even when nothing in your feelings helps you. Steadiness emerges when these acts accumulate into a new identity. I am someone who shows up. This triad is about building a reliable vessel. Mystical flashes mean little if there is no steady character to hold and express them. Triad 21. Anxiety, perspective, trust. Stage 1. Exoteric anxiety, chronic worry, tension, or dread about what may happen. Perspective, stepping back to see the situation in a wider context. Trust, a felt confidence that, however things unfold, something deeper is holding you. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Anxiety reflects the soul's identification with the vulnerable composite, overestimating the power of external fortune. I4. Perspective is the work of reason stretching the frame, recalling past providence, larger patterns, and the soul's higher kinship. Trust is a stable habitus in which the soul leans on the good more than on passing conditions. The soul thus shifts from fear of fate to cooperation with providence. Stage 3. Esoteric anxiety is the imagination running ahead of reality, drawing pictures of disaster and then living inside them. When you cling to certainty, you cannot grow. When you cling to doubt, you cannot move. Perspective is the act of standing outside these pictures, zooming out in time, in soul, in cosmos. You remember past survivals, deeper values, the layers of being in which you are rooted. Trust is when this remembering sinks from thought into the body, a relaxation, a widening, a quiet readiness to meet what comes. This triad does not guarantee pleasant outcomes. It trains you to act and endure from a place that knows you are held even when things break. Triad 22. Irritation, breath, calm. Stage 1. Exoteric. Irritation, minor anger, frustration, or impatience at small obstacles or annoyances. Breath, conscious breathing used to pause and reset. Calm, a restored, more relaxed and balanced state. Stage 2. Philosophical/structural. Irritation shows the oversensitivity of the composite and untrained spirited part. Breath links the psychic and bodily levels. Consciously used, it gives reason time to intervene. Calm is a micro-image of inner order, allowing the soul to respond in line with its higher aims. In Plotinian terms, this is a very small but important exercise in the rule of reason over passion. Stage 3. Esoteric irritation is the psyche's static. Small shocks when the world fails to match your hidden script. Breath is the thread that reconnects you to a larger rhythm. In, out, taken, given. Each conscious breath opens a gap in which you can choose not to tighten further. Calm is not the absence of stimulation, but the recovery of center while stimulation continues. This triad is like a tiny daily sacrament. Every time you use breath to transmute irritation into calm, you rehearse the same move needed for much larger storms. Triad 23. Confession, release, lightness. Stage 1. Exoteric. Confession, openly acknowledging a wrong, secret, or hidden burden. Release, letting go of the need to hide or justify it. Lightness, the felt unburdening that follows truthful disclosure and letting go. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Concealment binds the soul to its errors and passions by keeping them in the dark. Confession brings them under the light of logos, allowing reason and higher law to work. Release is the soul untying itself from identification with those acts or states. Lightness is the natural effect of restored order. This corresponds to the purificatory phase of virtue. The soul separates from what is alien to its true form. Stage 3. Esoteric confession is exposure. You bring into speech what you hoped no one, including yourself, would see. In that exposure, the false self trembles. It thrives on secrecy. Release happens when you no longer cling to the story around the fault. No more excuses, no more endless self-attack. You simply let it drop into the greater field of mercy and law. Lightness is the soul without that extra weight. Energy returns, vision clears. This triad is a key to hidden doors. Many apparent blocks on the path dissolve when what has been held in the dark is spoken and released. Ion, containment, non-violence. Stage 1. Exoteric. Aggression, forceful, often hostile energy aimed at others or oneself. Containment, holding and directing that energy without acting it out destructively. Non-violence, choosing ways of being and acting that do not harm while still honoring truth and boundaries. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Aggression is a distortion of the spirited power meant to protect justice. Containment is reason's governance, transforming raw drive into courage and resolve. Nonviolence is not passivity, but the soul's commitment to act according to the good, refusing to make another's distortion an excuse for its own. The spirited part thus becomes an ally of order and likeness to intellect, rather than a source of chaos. Stage 3. Esoteric aggression is power with a wound inside it. When unexamined, it lashes out or in and deepens the wound. Containment is the fierce kindness of not letting that power spill blindly. You feel it rise, acknowledge its force, and hold it within a larger awareness. Nonviolence is the decision to align that power only with what heals or protects, even when provoked. This triad transforms the inner warrior from an attacker into a guardian of the work, making your strength safe for the world. Triad 25. Self-to-truthfulness. Stage 1. Exoteric. Self-deception. Lying to yourself. Not seeing or not wanting to see what is genuinely happening in you or your life. Exposure. Something happens that reveals the lie. Feedback. Event. Failure. Insight. Truthfulness. Adopting a new stance of greater honesty with yourself and others. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Self-deception is the soul turning its own light away from uncomfortable regions, preferring pleasant images. Exposure is logos or providence forcing contact with what was hidden, an epistrophe in miniature. Truthfulness is a reordered relation between reason and imagination. Images now serve reality instead of masking it. The triad shows the soul moving from fantasy to a closer likeness to intellect, which is wholly aligned with truth. Stage 3. Esoteric self-deception feels safer than it is. You build a story in which you are smaller or greater, kinder or more helpless than the facts support. Exposure is the crack in that story. Someone confronts you, a consequence arrives, a pattern becomes undeniable. It can feel like humiliation or catastrophe, but it is actually light getting in. Truthfulness is the new climate you choose afterward. You stop asking, how do I preserve my image, and start asking, what is actually so and what serves the real? This triad is ruthless mercy. It strips away comforting illusions so your life can rest on something that will not collapse. Triad 26. Doubt, examination, understanding. Stage 1. Exoteric. Doubt, uncertainty, not knowing what to believe or what is true. Examination, actively questioning, testing, and investigating beliefs and appearances. Understanding, arriving at a coherent, grounded grasp of the matter. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Doubt can be either paralysis or the beginning of wisdom. The soul suspends premature assent. Examination is dialectic in action, separating what merely seems from what truly is. Understanding is a stable logos ordered by the soul's participation in the intelligible. This triad marks the path from unstable opinion to something closer to noetic insight. Stage 3. Esoteric doubt is the crack in certainty where light can enter. When you refuse doubt, you cling to borrowed answers and inherited scripts. When you wallow in it, you never move. Examination is the middle way. You turn doubt into a lamp rather than a swamp. You ask, test, cross-check, and are willing to be surprised. Understanding is the warmth that comes when this process bears fruit. The soul stands on something it has verified in its own depths. This triad initiates you into adult faith, not belief without questions, but a clarity tempered by the fire of inquiry. Triad 27. Projection, withdrawal, ownership. Stage 1. Exoteric. Projection. Attributing to others what actually belongs to you. Feelings, motives, traits. Withdrawal. Pulling that projection back. Recognizing that this is about me. Ownership. Taking responsibility for your own inner states and patterns. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Projection is the soul confusing inner states with outer causes, remaining asleep to itself. Withdrawal is an act of self-knowledge, recognizing the movement of your own powers. Ownership is the soul reclaiming its agency and accountability, a precondition for true virtue. The triad moves from externalization of the inner life to recollection of the soul into itself. Stage 3. Esoteric projection is a way of not meeting yourself. You exile anger, desire, or greatness into others, and then fight or worship it there. Withdrawal is the embarrassing grace of realization. The intensity of my reaction reveals more about my own soul than about theirs. Ownership is when this insight becomes a habit. Instead of policing the world, you tend your own field. You notice, name, and work with what arises in you. This triad turns the world from a battleground of enemies and idols into a hall of mirrors where every disturbance is an invitation to deeper self-knowledge. In this way, reality becomes a mirror for the work instead of a stage for blame. Triad 28, resistance, softening, openness. Stage 1, exoteric, resistance, tightening against what is an inner no to experience, feedback, or change. Softening, relaxing some of the tension, allowing contact with what you resist. Openness, a receptive, curious stance in which new information and experiences can enter. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Resistance is the lower soul clinging to its habits and familiar images. Softening is reason and higher eros beginning to relax the grip of these habits. Openness is the state in which the soul becomes porous to the intelligible, able to receive higher forms. The triad describes the soul's transition from closed self-referentiality to participatory receptivity. Stage 3. Esoteric resistance is armor. It was built to protect you, but now it blocks the very forces that could heal you. You feel it as tension, argument, numbness, or distraction whenever truth or change approaches. Softening is the courageous micro-movement of letting go, even 5%, unclenching the jaw, loosening the story, allowing the feeling to be there. Openness is not agreement with everything. It is a willingness to be touched and taught. This triad trains the soul to move from reflexive guarding into intelligent permeability. You do not swallow everything, but you are no longer ruled by fear of contact. The more you can stay open in the presence of discomfort or dislike, the more easily higher currents can move through you. Triad 29, shame defense, vulnerability, healing. Stage 1, exoteric, shame defense, strategies used to avoid feeling shame, attack, withdrawal, perfectionism, sarcasm, denial. Vulnerability, allowing yourself to feel the shame and be seen in your imperfection. Healing, a gradual lessening of shame's grip and a gentler relationship to yourself. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Shame defense keeps the soul locked in a false image, preventing true self-knowledge. Vulnerability is the opening of the soul to light and to others. It's an act of courage in the face of exposure. Healing emerges as the soul increasingly references its true value in the intelligible, not in the fluctuating opinions of others. The triad moves from self-protective illusion to truth-based restoration. Stage 3. Esoteric shame defense is a mask welded to a wound. You may attack first, vanish, overperform, or make everything a joke. Anything but feel the raw, there is something wrong with me. Vulnerability is when, perhaps in safe company or alone with the higher, you let the mask slip. You feel the heat in the face, the collapsing inside, and you stay. In that staying, another gaze can meet you, one that does not confirm the old verdict. Healing is slow but real. Shame becomes an episodic feeling rather than a fixed identity, and compassion begins to flow toward the places you once despised. This triad reopens the heart that shame had frozen, making it available again for real communion. You can be known, not just admired or feared. Triad 30, irrational fear, confrontation, neutrality. Stage 1, exoteric, irrational fear. Fear out of proportion to the situation, often rooted in past trauma or learned associations. Confrontation, facing the feared object, memory, or situation instead of indefinitely avoiding it. Neutrality, a state where the trigger no longer carries intense charge. It becomes just one more fact and experience. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Irrational fear shows the imprint of past impressions on the lower soul. It is not keyed to present reason. Confrontation allows reason and higher soul to be present where previously only reflex ruled. Neutrality indicates that the disturbed power has been brought back under the order of intellect. It no longer distorts perception. The triad thus describes a purification of the passionate powers. Stage 3. Esoteric irrational fear is a ghost from another time haunting the present moment. The body reacts as if the old danger were here, even when your current reality is different. Confrontation is the gentle but firm choice to meet the ghost. You stay in the room, the memory, the relationship, long enough for new experience to register. You bring breath, awareness, and often support into the very place you used to flee. Neutrality is when, after enough such meetings, the ghost loses its power. The trigger becomes almost boring. This triad does not promise that you will never feel fear, but it shows how old terror can be converted into ordinary information, freeing the soul's energy from old phantoms so it can face the real demands of the path. Triad 31, impulsive speech, silence, right speech. Stage 1, exoteric, impulsive speech, speaking without thinking, blurting out, oversharing, attacking, or leaking secrets. Silence, choosing not to speak, pausing before responding. Right speech, speaking in a way that is truthful, measured, and appropriate to the situation. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Impulsive speech is the tongue governed by passion rather than reason. Silence creates space for logos to intervene. It is a small act of recollection of the higher part. Right speech images the order of intellect. Words become vehicles of truth and fittingness, not of chaos. The triad refines the connection between inner order and outer expression. Stage 3, esoteric. Impulsive speech spends energy cheaply. Each unconsidered word scatters attention and can wound both you and others. Silence is the cauldron where raw reaction is held until it either cools or clarifies. In that quiet, you can feel, what is actually needed here? Anything at all? Right speech is then simple and precise. It emerges from a deeper place and often requires fewer words. This triad consecrates the mouth. Your speech shifts from automatic discharge to deliberate act of creation. Emotional storm, holding, clarity. Stage 1, exoteric. Emotional storm, intense, overwhelming waves of feeling. Rage, grief, panic, despair. Holding, not acting out or suppressing, but containing and witnessing the storm. Clarity, the calm and insight that follow once the emotional surge has passed through. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Emotional storms show the passionate part of the soul momentarily overtaking the rational. Holding is the renewed activity of the observing, higher soul, creating a container around the turbulence. Clarity comes when reason and the noetic light reestablish themselves as the governing principle. The triad depicts the reassertion of inner hierarchy after temporary upheaval. Stage 3. Esoteric emotional storms feel like possession. I am rage, I am terror, I am despair. In the peak of it, you forget there is any I beyond the wave. Holding is the quiet heroism of staying present without fusing or fleeing. You allow the energy to move while remembering that you are the sky, not the weather. Clarity dawns when the storm exhausts itself against the container of your awareness. What remains is cleaner. The real message, the next step, sometimes just a spaciousness. This triad trains you to navigate deep waters without drowning. Triad 33, Ration, wholeness. Stage 1, exoteric, inner division, feeling split between competing desires, values, or identities. Integration, bringing those parts into dialogue and relationship. Wholeness, a sense of being one person with inner elements coordinated around a central orientation. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Inner division reflects the soul's multiplicity when not ordered by its highest principle. Integration occurs as reason and higher eros assign each part its place, aligning them with a single aim. Wholeness is an image of the simple form the soul strives to reflect, unity in multiplicity. This triad is effectively Plotinian justice in the soul. Stage 3, esoteric inner division is like a house where each room plays a different song at full volume. One part wants safety, another risk. One wants to serve, another to disappear. Integration is the long, gentle work of calling all the rooms to a central hall, listening to each, discerning their wisdom and distortion, and inviting them into a shared purpose. Wholeness is not the absence of parts, but their orchestration. The soul moves with one deep yes, even as nuances remain. This triad seals the early phase of the work. You become a vessel rather than a battlefield. Triad 34, self-hatred, compass. Stage 1, exoteric, self-hatred, sustained hostility toward oneself, harsh inner criticism and contempt. Compassion, responding to your own suffering and limitations with kindness and understanding. Renewal, a fresh sense of possibility and willingness to live and grow. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Self-hatred is a distortion of the soul's judging power, turned cruelly upon its own image. Compassion reflects the soul's participation in the good, seeing itself as a work in process, not a fixed failure. Renewal comes as the soul more clearly identifies with its higher nature, capable of growth and likeness to intellect. The triad moves from destructive judgment to constructive alignment. Stage 3, Esoteric self-hatred freezes the work. You cannot ascend toward the good while secretly believing you are unworthy of it. Compassion is the shockingly simple act of looking at yourself as you would at a broken child or wounded animal, with care, not contempt. Renewal is what happens when this gaze settles in. Energy that was tied up in self-attack is released for real change. This triad reclaims the heart as an ally. Without it, spiritual practice becomes another weapon against yourself. Triad 35. Excess, balance, simplicity. Excess, doing, having, or chasing more than is healthy or needed. Balance, restoring proportion, giving each area of life an appropriate share of time and energy. Simplicity, choosing a life with fewer but more essential commitments and possessions. Stage 2. Philosophical. Structural, excess breaks measure and proportion, key marks of beauty and goodness. Balance restores metron, each part of life and soul is brought into rightful scope. Simplicity approaches the form like life, less clutter, more likeness to the intelligible, which is abundant in quality, not quantity. This triad mirrors the movement from multiplicity without order to ordered unity. Stage 3. Esoteric excess is often a disguise for emptiness. Overspending, overworking, overtalking, overcollecting to avoid stillness. Balance is the honest accounting. What actually serves my soul, and what merely fills time or space? As you adjust, some things are let go, others given their proper place. Simplicity is the joy of having room again, on your shelves, in your schedule, in your mind. This triad clears ground for the deeper mysteries. The less you are entangled in excess, the more available you are to subtle realities. Triad 36. Collapse, recovery, resilience. Stage 1. Exoteric, collapse, breaking down under pressure, emotionally, physically, mentally, or spiritually. Recovery, gradually returning to function, energy, and participation in life. Resilience, increased capacity to withstand future shocks without collapsing in the same way. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Collapse reveals the soul's limits and unintegrated places. Recovery is the regathering of powers, often with new insight into what is fragile. Resilience is a strengthened hexis, a more stable habit of being, less easily thrown off its axis. This triad shows how failure and breakdown can become material for greater stability. Stage 3. Esoteric collapse is when the structure you built cannot carry the weight of life or of the work. You burn out, break down, or fall into despair. Recovery is not an instant miracle. It is the slow, humble work of rest, support, and small faithful acts. Resilience is the secret gift. If you have recovered consciously, you do not go back to being the same person. You become someone whose foundation is deeper and more flexible. This triad closes the lesser mysteries. It acknowledges that the path includes breakdowns, and that these, lived well, become part of your initiation rather than its negation. Surface self, inner self, true self. Stage 1. Exoteric, surface self, the everyday persona, roles, habits, social identity. Inner self, the deeper psychological person, fears, dreams, longings, values. True self, the core identity aligned with the soul's highest nature and purpose. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Surface self was the composite man, defined by body, history, and social forms. Inner self, the psychic core, the part capable of turning inward and upward. True self equals the higher soul, kin to intellect, the inner man Plotinus points toward. This triad marks the transition from merely psychological work into explicitly noetic orientation. Stage 3. Esoteric. The surface self is the mask you needed to survive. It learned how to speak, behave, and arrange its world. It is not false, but it is not the whole of you. The inner self is what the mask both hides and protects, the tangled, beautiful, wounded person who actually feels and longs. The true self is deeper still, the level where your being silently knows its source and direction. In the work, you do not destroy the surface self. You reseat it under the guidance of the inner self, which in turn bows to the true self. This triad begins the ascent from persona to essence. Triad 38. Attention, noetic attention. Stage 1. Exoteric, outer attention, awareness focused on external objects, events, and other people. Inner attention, awareness turned toward your own sensations, feelings, thoughts. Noetic attention, awareness oriented toward meaning, being, and the space in which all appears. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Outer attention equals the soul facing downward and outward into the realm of sense. Inner attention equals the soul turned toward its own psychic life. Noetic attention, the soul turning toward intellect, attending to principles, forms, and the source of its own light. As attention refines, it passes from sensible to psychic to intelligible orientation. Stage 3. Esoteric outer attention is the eye always hooked by surfaces, screens, faces, crises. Inner attention is when you begin to track the field in which those impressions land. What happens in me as this occurs? Noetic attention is subtler. You notice the silent knowing that underlies both inner and outer, the sense of I am aware and the quality of truth, beauty, or falseness that colors each experience. This triad trains attention to rise in its own ladder until it learns to rest not just on things, but on the light that reveals them. Triad 39, opinion, understand. Age 1, exoteric. Opinion, a belief or view taken largely on habit, authority, or quick judgment. Understanding, a reasoned, coherent grasp of why something is so. Vision, direct, intuitive seeing that feels self-evident and transformative. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Opinion, doxa, unstable and often mixed with error. Understanding, dianoia, discursive thought that can justify and explain. Vision equals noesis, direct intellection of realities, beyond argument. This is the classic Plotinian ascent of cognition, from believing to thinking to seeing. Stage 3. Esoteric opinion is the borrowed furniture of the mind, phrases and positions you picked up from family, culture, teachers. Understanding is when you rearrange the furniture yourself, checking each piece and how it fits. You see connections and reasons. Vision is when, in a moment of grace, the walls fall away and you glimpse the landscape beyond, truth not as a concept but as a living presence. This triad prepares you to trust that while opinion can be useful and understanding is necessary, the work ultimately aims at vision. Identification, distance, freedom. Identification, being fused with some aspect of experience. I am this role, this feeling, this thought. Distance, recognizing you have a role, a feeling, a thought, but are not exhausted by it. Freedom, the capacity to choose how to relate to your states and roles instead of automatically obeying them. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Identification equals the soul mistaking the composite or a part for the whole. Distance equals the soul's recollection of its independence from what it animates or experiences. Freedom equals the exercise of the soul's power to turn toward or away, aligning with its higher nature rather than compulsion. Here we see the movement from bondage to self-possessed agency. Stage 3. Esoteric identification is hypnosis. I am the angry one, the rejected one, the gifted one. You live inside stories as if they are the whole of you. Distance comes in small awakenings. I notice anger is here. I see the story running, and something in you is not collapsed into it. Freedom is when that noticing becomes a stable center. From there you can decide. Speak or stay silent, approach or withdraw, act or rest. This triad gives you the space in which the higher call can be heard above the noise of immediate identity. Triad 46, personal will, higher will, surrender. Stage 1, exoteric, personal will, your own preferences, plans, and determinations. Higher will, an intuited sense of a larger, wiser intention or pattern. Surrender, consenting to align with that higher will, even when it cuts across personal desire. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Personal will is the finite soul deciding within its limited horizon. Higher will is the order of no and the good, the pattern of reality as directed toward the best. Surrender is the soul's conversion, epistrophe, deliberately turning to follow the higher rather than ruling alone. This triad traces the passage from self-direction to theonomous cooperation. Stage 3. Esoteric personal will says, my life, my plan, my timing. At first, this is necessary. Without it, you never stand up at all. Higher will is felt in those quiet contradictions. Doors that won't open, intuitions that won't go away, coincidences that rearrange your course. Surrender is not passive collapse. It is the courageous yes to the deeper current you have begun to trust. Let me want what truly serves the whole, even if I do not yet understand. This triad shifts the locus of control from ego to soul, and from soul to the mystery that called it into being. Returning, abiding. Stage 1. Exoteric, wandering, drifting from path, purpose, or center, living in distraction or forgetfulness. Returning, coming back again to what you know matters. Abiding, staying rooted in that center for longer and more reliably. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Wandering equals the soul's descent and dispersion among external things. Returning is the act of epistrophe, turning back toward its source. Abiding is the soul's growing capacity to remain in likeness to intellect, not constantly falling away. This is a core rhythm in Plotinus: procession, conversion, and remaining. Stage 3. Esoteric wandering is inevitable on the path. You forget, you get busy, you chase shiny distractions or old addictions. Returning is the quiet heroism of coming back without drama. You resume the practice, pick up the text, reopen the conversation with the divine. Abiding is when the gaps between wanderings grow shorter and the stays at home grow longer. The center becomes more familiar than the periphery. This triad prevents perfectionism from poisoning the rest work. The point is not never to wander, but always to return until returning becomes rest. Triad 48, limited. Stage 1, exoteric, limited mind, ordinary thinking, confined by personal history, language, and conditioning. Soul mind, a deeper intelligence that can reflect, imagine, and intuit beyond immediate conditioning. Noetic mind, the level of mind that directly participates in timeless truths and archetypal patterns. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Limited mind equals the individual discursive psyche, working with images and temporal sequences. Soul mind equals the higher part of soul that can turn toward intelligible realities. Noetic mind, nous itself, or the soul insofar as it actively shares in nous activity. The triad describes the ascent of cognition from psychological to intellective. Stage 3, esoteric limited mind is clever but confined. It thinks in loops of me and my story, rearranging familiar pieces. Soul mind is what wakes when you reflect more deeply, dream symbolically, or sense meaning that outstrips your personal biography. Noetic mind is encountered in those rare but decisive moments when a truth arrives whole, without steps. You don't work it out, you receive it. This triad invites you to respect all three levels, but to give allegiance to the highest, to let your everyday thinking be tutored by the soul, and the soul be tutored by the light of intellect. Triad 49, self-image, essential form, soul form. G, the picture you carry of yourself, appearance, story, labels, reputation. Essential form, the deeper pattern of who you are when you're most authentic and alive. Soul form, the unique way your soul images a higher, spiritual idea or archetype. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Self-image is a construct of the composite man, body, memory, social reflection. Essential form hints at the logoi in the soul, the stable pattern that persists through change. Soul form is your particular participation in a noetic form, the way your soul reflects an intelligible archetype, V1, V8. This triad moves from a psychological construct toward the ontological pattern the soul is meant to embody. Stage 3, esoteric self-image is a mask made of memories and mirrors. What you were told you are, what you fear you are, what you hope you are. Essential form is glimpsed in those rare moments when you feel deeply yourself without trying, your way of loving, seeing, creating, even when no one is watching. Soul form goes further. It is how the divine idea behind you shines through that essence. This triad invites you to loosen your grip on self-image and turn toward essential form, trusting that as you do, the hidden soul form, your true archetype, will become more and more visible. Triad 50. Personal memory, soul memory, eternal memory. Stage 1, exoteric. This life. Events, relationships, experiences. Soul memory, deeper patterns that feel older than this lifetime, recurring themes, intuitions, déjà vu. Eternal memory, the soul's remembrance of its origin and nature beyond time. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Personal memory belongs to the composite living being, 3-4. Soul memory hints at the soul's continuity across embodiments and its deeper identity. Eternal memory is the soul's recollection and amnesis of the intelligible realm it came from. The triad traces a movement from biographical recall to noetic remembrance. Stage 3, esoteric personal memory is your storyline. The string of this happened, then that. Soul memory stirs when you notice repeating motifs that seem larger than this life, or when certain images, teachings, or places feel inexplicably familiar. Eternal memory is more subtle, an ache for a home that has no place and no past, only a vertical depth. This triad reminds you that remembering is not just looking backward, it is also looking up. As eternal memory strengthens, your biography becomes less of a prison and more of a chosen curriculum. Triad 51, lower eros, soul eros, divine eros. Stage 1, exoteric, lower eros, desire aimed at bodies, status, validation, excitement. Soul eros, longing for meaning, intimacy, beauty, truth. Divine eros, the soul's love for the good itself, beyond any finite object. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Lower eros is the attraction of sense and passion, often mixed with need and fantasy. Soul eros is the longing of the rational soul for beauty, virtue, and understanding. 3-5. Divine eros is the soul's drive toward union with intellect and the one, the deepest ascent. This is eros purified from possessive craving into Godward longing. Stage 3. Esoteric lower eros says, I want that, body, thrill, admiration, as if the object could complete you. Soul eros appears when you discover that even the best experiences leave a remainder. You start to thirst for what is truly beautiful, truly good, truly real. Divine eros is when this thirst recognizes its true aim, not any particular form, but the source of all beauty and goodness. This triad redeems desire. Instead of killing eros, you let it rise, stage by stage, until it becomes the very force that carries you toward the divine. Artial insight, whole insight, intellective sight. Stage 1, exoteric, partial insight, catching one aspect of a truth, seeing something important but incomplete. Whole insight, seeing the truth in a wider context, with its relations and implications. Intellective sight, direct, luminous knowing that feels complete and self-validating. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Partial insight corresponds to fragmentary dianoia, correct but limited reasoning. Whole insight moves closer to a structural grasp, how things hang together. Intellective sight is noesis, direct vision of intelligible realities, not dependent on discursive steps. The triad shows the mind moving from bits to patterns to presence. Stage 3. Esoteric partial insight is the aha that fixes one problem but leaves the deeper pattern untouched. Whole insight comes when you see how this piece fits into a web, your history, your character, the laws of soul. Intellective sight is when the pattern stops being just an idea and becomes a lived seeing. You recognize it whenever it appears, and your way of being shifts around it. This triad teaches patience with your own learning curve. The work often gives you fragments first so that, when the full light comes, you have somewhere to put it. Triad 53. Dentity, eternal identity. Stage 1, exoteric, human identity. Who I am in terms of name, body, story, culture, roles. Soul identity, who I am as a unique center of consciousness, character, and calling. Eternal identity, who I am in relation to the divine, my unbroken being beyond birth and death. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Human identity equals the this life composite shaped by body and society. Soul identity equals the individual soul that persists through changes in lives. Eternal identity equals the soul as participant in intellect in the one, its highest ontological standing. The triad moves from temporal personhood to immortal hypostatic belonging. Stage 3, esoteric human identity is the costume, important for the play but not the actor. Soul identity is the actor, a distinct consciousness moving through many scenes and stories. Eternal identity is the fact that even this actor is rooted in a deeper source. You are, in your innermost core, an outflow of the one's generosity. This triad loosens the terror around death and status. Your human story is precious but not ultimate. Your soul story is vast. Your eternal identity is secure even when all stories end. Triad 54, personal aim, soul AIG1, exoteric. Personal aim, goals set by your ego, career, relationships, achievements, experiences. Soul aim, the deeper direction of your life when you listen to what truly calls you. Divine aim, the intention of the greater order or the good working through your life. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural, personal aim equals the finite soul planning within its limited self-centered horizon. Soul aim equals the rational soul sensing its true good in likeness to the intelligible. Divine aim equals the teleology of the good, the overall movement of reality toward a more ordered participation in itself. This triad tracks how finite aims are gradually absorbed into universal purpose. Stage 3, esoteric personal aim asks, what do I want? Often, this is shaped by fear, comparison, or fantasy. Soul aim asks, what is my life actually for? The answers may disrupt your plans, but they bring relief and meaning. Divine aim is sensed when your soul aim and outer circumstances begin to resonate. Surprising openings and closures align you with something larger. This triad teaches you to hold your plans lightly, listening for the deeper current that wants to move through your particular shape in this world. Triad 55. Speech, prayer, silent communion. Stag speech, ordinary talking to others, to yourself about the world. Prayer, speaking to the divine, however you name or frame it. Silent communion, wordless being with, in which communication is beyond speech. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Speech is the soul moving through logos in the lower realm. Prayer is the soul turning its logos upward, seeking contact with higher reality. Silent communion is a foretaste of noetic union. Discursive thought falls quiet, and the soul participates directly in its source. This triad describes the elevation of language from horizontal exchange into vertical participation. Stage 3. Esoteric speech is how you keep company with the world and with yourself. It can be truthful or vain, scattered or precise. Prayer begins when speech tilts upward. You address the unseen, haltingly at first with petition, thanks, anger, or praise. Silent communion is when even this speech becomes too small. Something in you and something beyond you simply share presence, without needing words. This triad traces the sanctification of language, until the deepest communication is no longer what you say, but how fully you are with the one who listens. Triad 56. Imagination, symbol, living archetype. Stage 1. Exoteric. Imagination, the inner faculty that pictures, fantasizes, and simulates. Symbol, an image or form that points beyond itself to a deeper meaning. Living archetype, an inner dynamic presence that organizes experience around a spiritual pattern. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Imagination works with phantasmata, images derived from sense and memory. Symbol arises when an image becomes transparent to a noetic reality. It participates in what it represents. Living archetype reflects the soul's engagement with forms, stable patterns that shape its becoming, V838. The triad moves from fantasy to sacramental image to participated form. Stage 3, esoteric imagination by itself is a playground. It can entertain, distract, or torment, but it doesn't yet know what is real. Symbol appears when certain images shine. A tree, a spiral, a figure in a dream, a word, carrying a weight disproportionate to their literal content. Living archetype is when you no longer just think about such images, but find that one of them has taken up residence in you, quietly reshaping your choices and perception. This triad invites you to treat imagination as a gateway, not to believe every picture, but to listen for the ones through which the higher world is trying to speak. Triad 57, reflection, contemplation, intuitive vision. Stage 1, exoteric reflection, thinking back on events, ideas, or experiences, considering them thoughtfully. Contemplation, sustained, attentive dwelling on a reality, question, or presence. Intuitive vision, sudden or gradual seeing that feels like a direct grasp of truth. Stage 2, philosophicals, structural. Reflection equals discursive thought, reviewing and analyzing. Contemplation, theoria, is a more stable, focused resting of mind in its object. Intuitive vision is noesis, intellect seeing what is, beyond discursive movement. The triad maps progressively deeper forms of knowing with. Stage 3. Esoteric reflection is like walking around a sculpture, looking from many angles. Contemplation is sitting down before it and staying long enough that distractions tire of pulling you away. Intuitive vision is the moment when, in that stillness, the sculpture seems to speak. You suddenly understand something that no amount of circling could give. This triad shows how depth of seeing often requires time and fidelity. Vision is less a lightning bolt than the fruit of having stayed. Triad 58, thought, light, presence. Stage 1, exoteric. Thought, mental activity, ideas, concepts, analyses. Light, the quality of clarity or insight that sometimes accompanies thought. Presence, the felt reality of something known, beyond just thinking about it. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Thought is the operation of discursive mind. Light represents the participation of thought in intellect's luminosity, truth shining in and through concepts. Presence points to the reality that intellect is living being. When we truly know, we in some way touch that living presence. The triad conveys that knowing is not merely propositional, but ontological contact. Stage 3. Esoteric thought is like drawing maps. Useful, but flat. Light is when the map suddenly makes sense. You see why the lines are where they are. Presence is when you step into the landscape itself. The thing you thought about is felt as real, near, alive. This triad shifts your relationship to thinking. Instead of chasing cleverness, you begin to sense when thought is warmed by light and when that light flowers into presence. The work aims not at being right on paper, but at living in contact with what is. Triad 59. Openness, receptivity, participation. Stage 1. Exoteric. Openness, willingness to encounter new ideas, experiences, or people. Receptivity, the capacity to genuinely take in what is offered without immediate defense or distortion. Participation, actively sharing in a reality, not just observing or receiving it. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Openness loosens the soul's rigid self-enclosure. Receptivity describes the soul as potentiality for higher forms. It can receive impressions from intellect. Participation, methexis, is the soul's actual sharing in intelligible being. It becomes what it receives to some degree. This triad is central to Plotinus's understanding of how lower levels relate to higher ones. Stage 3. Esoteric openness is a door unlocked. You stop insisting you already know and allow something other to approach. Receptivity is when that something actually gets in. You let yourself be affected, changed, taught. Participation is when you no longer stand apart from it at all. The quality you contemplated, courage, justice, beauty, love, begins to live in you as your own way of being. Triad 60. Unity, oneness. Stage 1. Exoteric, duality, experiencing reality in opposites. Me, you, good, bad, inner, outer. Unity, recognizing deeper connections and common ground between apparent opposites. Oneness, sensing or realizing that all things are held in and arise from a single source. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Duality is the natural perception within the realm of multiplicity. Unity reflects the intellect's ability to grasp wholes and relations, not just fragments. Oneness points to the one beyond being, the absolute source in which all multiplicity is grounded and to which it points. 9. The triad encapsulates the movement from divided appearance to undivided origin. Stage 3. Esoteric duality is where you begin. I am here. The world is there. This is mine. That is yours. This is holy. That is profane. Unity begins when fractures soften. You see how your fate and others are intertwined, how inner and outer mirror each other, how many paths lead toward the same summit. Oneness is not an idea, but a taste. A moment when, however briefly, you feel that all distinctions float in a single immeasurable depth. This triad orients the whole path. Every practice of discernment and separation is ultimately in service of a return to the one that was never really divided. Triad 61, source, stream, return flow. Stage 1, exoteric, source, where something begins, origin, cause, spring. Stream, the ongoing flow that comes out of that source, events, life, influence. Return flow, what goes back, responses, consequences, gratitude, or the movement of the stream back toward origin. Structural, source equals the higher cause, for Plotinus, ultimately the one, then intellect. Stream equals procession, what flows forth from the source, soul, world, events. Return flow equals epistrophe, the turning back of what has gone forth towards its origin. This triad mirrors the core metaphysical motion, from one through manifestation back toward one. Stage 3. Esoteric sound your life, the level from which your being and gifts arise. Stream is your actual biography, the way that origin expresses itself in time through your choices, talents, and relationships. Return flow is when your life begins to consciously bend back toward its source, gratitude, worship, service, contemplation. This triad asks you to live not as a stream that forgets its spring, but as a stream that gradually turns again toward the sea, from which all waters came. Triad 62, descent, experience, ascent. Stag moving into limitation, embodiment, difficulty, confusion, shadow. Experience, living through what that descent entails, with all its lessons and pains. Ascent, rising out of that state with more wisdom, depth, and clarity. Stage 2, philosophical, structural, descent equals the soul's entry into the boed. Experience, the soul's life in the composite, interacting with images, desires, and circumstances. Ascent equals the soul's return toward intellect, purified by what it has learned. IV8, I6. This is the classic Plotinian curve, going out, learning, and turning back. Stage 3, esoteric descent, is not a mistake. It is the soul stepping into density so that potentials can become iculum, joy, boredom, failure, success, heartbreak, work, all of it. Ascent begins the moment you stop seeing these as random or purely unfair and start asking, what is this trying to teach me about myself and about reality? This triad tells you that nothing is wasted. The point is not to avoid descent, but to pass through experience in such a way that ascent becomes possible and real. Triad 63, Fate, Consent, Freedom. Stage 1, Exoteric, Fate, conditions you did not choose. Family, body, temperament, history, eyeing yes to working with what is given, rather than only resenting or denying it. Freedom, the capacity to respond creatively and meaningfully within those limits. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. Fate corresponds to the given order of the cosmos and your placement within it, 313. Consent is the soul's alignment's role in a larger pattern. Freedom, paradoxically, emerges as the soul acts from its higher nature within the frame of fate. The triad shows how true freedom arises not outside conditions, but within them, when the soul cooperates with the good. Stage 3. Esoteric fate is the hand of cards you were dealt. Fighting the fact that these are the cards exhausts you, but does not change them. Consent is the inward turn, where you stop arguing with Rhea Ethereal of my work. Let me meet it. Freedom is what opens then. Possibilities appear in how you play the hand. Creativity, courage, love, that were invisible while you were only wishing for different cards. This triad transforms your relationship with necessity. You discover that your deepest liberty lives inside a wholehearted yes. Triad 64, Conflict, Discernment, Alignment. Stage 1, Exoteric. Conflict, clashing impulses, values, or demands inside you or in your world. Discernment, carefully weighing what is truly right, timely, and you're bringing your choice, action, and inner state into harmony with that discerned truth. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. Conflict reveals the soul's mixture of higher and lower tendencies. Discernment is the work of reason and higher eros sorting these impulses in light of the good. Alignment is integrated action, the lie in the direction of its true good. This triad reflects the Plotinian idea that virtue is rightly ordered desire. Stage 3. Esoteric conflict is an alarm bell that something cannot go on as it is. When you rush to fix it externally, you may miss the inner lesson. Discernment slows you down. You listen, question motives, feel into the deeper law at work. Alignment is when you make a choice that might, but which rings true at a deeper level. This triad trains you to treat conflict as an invitation to finer tuning, not as proof that you or reality are fundamentally wrong. Triad 65. Influence, Response, Responsibility. Stage 1, Exoteric. Influence, forces acting on you, family, culture, other people, environments. Response, how you react, consciously or unconsciously, to those influences. Responsibility, owning that while you cannot control all response and its ripple. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. Influence reflects the soul's place in a network of causes, physical, psychic, and noetic. Response is the act of the self-moving soul, which can choose how to be affected. Responsibility is the soul recognizing its role as secondary cause, a co-creator within the cosmic order. The tri-embeddedness with the dignity of free agency. Stage 3, Esoteric influence is real. You are shaped by weather, histories, unseen atmospheres. But if you see yourself only as the product of these, you become a puppet. Response is where your freedom begins. A pause, a choice, a different word, a refusal to pass harm along. Responsibility is when you fully take up that freedom, not as guilt, but as power. What I embody in E. This triad calls you out of both victimhood and arrogance into the sober joy of being a conscious node in the great field. Triad 66, Outer Guidance, Inner Guidance, Hidden Guidance. Stage 1, Exoteric. Outer guidance, help from outside, teachers, texts, communities, signs. Inner guidance, your own conscience, intuition, and deep sense of rightness. Hidden guidance, subtle, sometimes unseen currents shaping your path. Providence, synchronicity, unseen allies. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. Outer guidance equals logos in the world, other souls and structures reflecting higher truths. Inner guidance equals the spark of noetic light within your own soul. Hidden guidance, the action of nous and the good arranging circumstances beyond your explicit awareness. The triad describes the multi-layered way that the cosmic order educates the soul. Stage 3. Esoteric outer guidance is how the work first finds you. A book in your hands, a sentence from a friend, a chance meeting. Inner guidance awakens as you start to feel a resonance or dissonance in your chest and bones that no external authority can override. Hidden guidance is what you glimpse only in hindsight. If that had not fallen apart, I would never have turned here. This triad encourages you to listen in all three directions, outward, inward, and into the mysterious choreography of your life, without clinging to any single channel as the only one. Triad 67. Effort, grace, integration. Stage 1. Exoteric. Effort, what you do. Practice, study, therapy, service, discipline. Grace, what happens that you did not and could not produce. Insight, help, openings. Integration, the weaving together of what you have worked for and what you have been given. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Effort is the finite soul's activity, aligning itself as best it can. Grace is the descent of higher reality, intellects or the one's generosity, not earned but received. Integration is the soul's stable assimilation of both, effort and grace conjoined in a new state of being. This triad avoids both Pelagian self-sufficiency and passive quietism. Both sides belong. Stage 3. Esoteric effort is you climbing, showing up, practicing, making amends, trying again. Grace is when something comes down to meet you. A door opens, a pattern releases, a presence is felt, a burden lifts without your usual pushing. Integration is when you don't dismiss grace as a fluke or abandon effort as useless, but let them marry. You live differently because of what you've received, and you keep working in a more trusting way. This triad teaches you to honor both your labor and the mystery that works beyond it. Triad 68. Testing, endurance, victory. Stage 1. Exoteric. Testing, situations that stretch you, temptations, hardships, delays, opposition. Endurance, staying faithful to what is right, even when it is hard or unrewarded. Victory, emerging with strengthened character and a deeper capacity for good. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Testing reveals the actual strength and alignment of the soul's powers. Endurance is the exercise of fortitude, keeping the soul steady under pressure. Victory is not external triumph, but the soul's increased likeness to intellect, more stable, ordered, and luminous. The triad interprets trial as a means of purification and fortification. Stage 3. Esoteric testing feels like abandonment. You pray and the storm intensifies, you commit and obstacles multiply. Endurance is the choice to keep faith with the good in the absence of immediate reward or reassurance. Victory, in this language, is quiet. You discover that what would once have broken you no longer has the same power. You stand straighter, gentler, clearer. This triad reframes your hardest seasons as initiations. The work is not trying to crush you, but to reveal to you how much of the divine strength can be carried in a human frame. Triad 69. Suffering, wisdom, compassion. Stage 1. Exoteric. Suffering, enduring pain, loss, injustice, illness, or inner torment. Wisdom, understanding that arises from having suffered and reflected on it. Compassion, a deepened capacity to feel and act for the good of others in their suffering. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Suffering reveals the limitations and vulnerabilities of composite existence. Wisdom results when the soul uses suffering to reevaluate its values and reorient toward the higher. Compassion appears as the soul recognizes its kinship with others and the shared structure of their trials. This triad moves from damage to depth to participatory love. Stage 3. Esoteric suffering by itself can embitter or hollow out. Wisdom arises when you let experience teach you instead of only wound you. You see what truly matters, where you were naive, what illusions died. Compassion is the flowering of that wisdom outward. Because you know these pains from the inside, your heart opens rather than closes when you meet them in others. This triad is one of the hidden engines of the work. It converts personal pain into a capacity for mercy that can carry many. Triad 70. Karma, balance, resolution. Stage 1. Exoteric. Karma, in your system's broad sense, the patterned consequences of actions, personal and collective. Balance, the process by which things are evened out, debts paid, harms addressed, energies re-equilibrated. Resolution, a state in which a particular karmic pattern has completed and no longer drives your life in the same way. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Karma echoes Plotinus' sense of soul pattern and consequence. Choices shape the soul and its future conditions. 3.243. Balance points to the justice of the cosmos. Disorder tends toward restitution. Resolution is a new order in the soul and in relationships, an achieved harmony that no longer demands repetition. The triad reads the world as morally and spiritually structured, not random. Stage 3. Esoteric karma here is not a cosmic bookkeeping of punishment, but the momentum of choices. You repeat what you don't resolve. Balance begins when you stop seeing this as bad luck and start participating, making amends, changing behaviors, refusing to pass on what was done to you. Resolution is when the charge drops. You find yourself no longer compelled to replay the same story. The lesson has been learned, the energy repatterned. This triad encourages you to cooperate with the balancing forces instead of fighting them, so that old scripts can finally end. Triad 76. Perception, interpretation, understanding. Stage 1 exoteric. Perception, what you register through your senses and initial impressions. Interpretation, the meaning you give to what you perceive, stories, judgments, explanations. Understanding, seeing both the facts and their meaning more accurately and deeply. Stage 2 philosophical structural. Perception equals contact with appearances in the sensible world. Interpretation equals the activity of dianoia, arranging these appearances into narratives. Understanding is a closer alignment of those narratives with logos and the real structure of things. The triad tracks how the soul moves from raw data to truer conceptions. Stage 3. Esoteric perception is what hits you, a tone of voice, a look, a headline, a sensation in your chest. Interpretation rushes in. They hate me. This is dangerous. I'm failing. This is destiny. Understanding is what happens when you slow the leap and check it. What else could this mean? What is actually known? Often, the pain lies less in what is perceived than in the story wrapped around it. This triad animates a crucial skill, disentangling what is from what you've made of it, so that the work can align your interpretations with truth instead of with old wounds. Triad 77. Power, right action, blessing. Stage 1. Exoteric. Power, the capacity to affect others or situations, through skills, position, resources, presence. Right action, using that power ethically, in alignment with conscience and the good of all involved. Blessing, the positive, life-giving impact your rightly used power has on others and the environment. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Power is a form of dynamis, a potency in the soul. Right action is dynamis guided by virtue and logos, so it expresses the good rather than whim. Blessing is the participatory overflow of the good, when your action becomes a conduit for higher order and joy. The triad shows power's trajectory from neutral capacity to sacramental instrument. Stage 3. Esoteric power by itself is blind. It simply amplifies the intention behind it. Right action is what keeps it from becoming another form of harm. You submit your power to truth, empathy, and proportion. Blessing is when people, places, or systems are tangibly better because your power passed through them. More free, more alive, more aligned. This triad asks you to stop pretending you are powerless. Instead, to recognize where you do have power and take responsibility for making it a blessing rather than a burden. Triad 78. Skill, mastery, influence. Stage 1. Exoteric. Skill, a learned ability. Technical, emotional, intellectual, artistic. Mastery, a high level of skill, internalized so that it becomes fluid and intuitive. Influence, the effect your mastery has on others and the field you work in. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Skill is formed habit, hexis, in a particular domain. Mastery is habit refined to the point of ease and excellence, nearer to form than to struggle. Influence is the way a mastered form becomes paradigmatic, shaping others' images and actions. The triad recasts work and craft as means for the soul to approach formal perfection. Stage 3. Esoteric skill is the awkward, beautiful beginning. You practice, fail, repeat, slowly improving. Mastery arrives when something in you and the form you serve have fused. You don't just do the thing, you inhabit it. Influence is then inevitable. Others feel the pattern you carry. They are inspired, challenged, or quieted by it. This triad reminds you that your craft, whatever it is not separate from the work. Long fidelity in any true art becomes a vehicle for spiritual form to enter the world. Triad 79. Compassion, care, healing. Stage 1. Exoteric. Compassion, feeling with another's suffering. Your heart moves toward their pain. Care, concrete actions taken to support, comfort, or assist. Healing, partial or full restoration of wholeness, physical, emotional, relational, or spiritual. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Compassion reflects recognition of our shared structure as souls in bodies, all vulnerable. Care is embodied love, the translation of inner movement into outward service. Healing is the reordering of a disturbed pattern toward its proper form. This triad shows the good working through the soul as mercy and restoration. Stage 3. Esoteric compassion is the first softening. Your heart does not turn away, even when you cannot fix anything. Care is when you let that softness guide your hands and schedule. A message, a meal, listening, advocacy, tending. Healing is never guaranteed or total in this realm, but something always heals in true care. Dignity, connection, the sense of not being alone. This triad calls you to let your inner work spill over as medicine. Your own wounds, wisely held, make your compassion precise and strong. Triad 80. Justice, equity, harmony. Stage 1. Exoteric. Justice, giving each their due, fair treatment according to law or agreed principles. Equity, adjusting justice to account for differing needs and starting points, so fairness is real, not just formal. Harmony, a state where relationships and structures are balanced, with minimal resentment and oppression. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Justice in the soul, each part doing its proper work under reason. In society, each class or function serving the whole. Equity recognizes the particular, applying universal order with wisdom to individual cases. Harmony is the musical image of order, many parts coexisting in proportion. This triad extends inner justice outward into ethical and social architecture. Stage 3. Esoteric justice is your sense that things should be right, that harm should be named, debts addressed, boundaries respected. Equity is the refinement that keeps justice from becoming cruelty. You see that the same rule applied blindly can crush one person and barely touch another. Harmony is what you aim for beneath both, an arrangement where everyone's true function can unfold without exploitation. This triad invites you to practice justice not only inside your own soul, but also in the systems you touch, always listening for the music of the whole. Triad 81. Creativity, structure, beauty. Stage 1. Exoteric. Creativity, the impulse to make, imagine, generate something new. Structure, the form, limits, and organization that give that creativity shape. Beauty, the felt rightness and delight when creativity and structure are well married. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Creativity mirrors the overflowing abundance of the higher, the good's tendency to emanate. Structure corresponds to form and measure, without which energy is chaos. Beauty is the sign of successful participation in intelligible proportion and light. This triad echoes Plotinus's doctrine that beauty arises from form in matter, or order in multiplicity. Stage 3. Esoteric creativity is raw. Ideas, images, energies, often messy and excessive. Structure can feel like a threat at first, rules, edits, commitments, but it is what allows your inspiration to become shareable reality. Beauty is the result when neither dominates. The work is neither rigid nor formless, but has the inevitability of something that wanted to be this way. This triad asks you to see your creative life as a temple, not a tantrum. The right forms can welcome and reveal the fire rather than extinguish or glorify it. Triad 82. Leadership, guidance, protection. Stage 1. Exoteric. Leadership, stepping into responsibility for others' direction or welfare. Guidance, offering vision, counsel, and example to those you lead. Protection, using your position to shield others from harm and injustice. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Leadership is a higher function in the organic whole, not superiority of being, but of role. Guidance is the exercise of logos for others' sake. You carry and articulate a pattern. Protection reflects the shepherding aspect of the good. Higher orders safeguard the lower. The triad presents leadership as an image of the cosmos' hierarchical care, not domination. Stage 3. Esoteric leadership is not first about being in front, but about being answerable. You agree to bear weight so others can flourish. Guidance is the daily work of that agreement. Listening, deciding, clarifying, sometimes simply standing firm when others waver. Protection is what proves your leadership's quality. When danger comes, external or internal, you place yourself between the threat and those entrusted to you. This triad consecrates any role of authority you hold, however small. You are there to serve the pattern of the good, not your own inflation. Triad 83. Self-knowledge, other knowledge, world knowledge. Stage 1. Exoteric. Self-knowledge, understanding your own character, wounds, gifts, patterns. Other knowledge, understanding other people, their differences, motives, and structures. World knowledge, understanding the larger systems, cultural, natural, spiritual, in which you and others move. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Self-knowledge is the soul turning inward. Know thyself as the gateway to wisdom. Other knowledge extends that insight horizontally, recognizing the shared and differing logoi of other souls. World knowledge is the recognition of an ordered cosmos, a hierarchy of beings filled with meaning. The triad maps the expansion of consciousness from center to community to cosmos. Stage 3. Esoteric self-knowledge is often painful and humbling. You see your scripts, your shadow, your true lines of strength. Other knowledge grows as you realize not everyone is wired like you, and that this is not an error. Each soul carries a different angle of the one. World knowledge dawns when you feel the pattern that holds all these differences: seasons of history, archetypal movements, layers of reality. This triad invites you to study your own heart, other hearts, and the heart of the world as three concentric classrooms of the same school. Triad 84. Time, eternity, timelessness. Stage 1. Exoteric. Time, the flow of before and after. Clocks, aging, deadlines, change. Eternity, a dimension in which things are held all at once, beyond succession. Timelessness, the direct experience of a now that seems outside ordinary clock time. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Time is the moving image of eternity, the soul's life in motion, ordering events. 3-7. Eternity pertains to intellect, all forms present together, without past or future. Timelessness is the soul's share in that eternal mode when it rises into contemplation. The triad contrasts temporal becoming with intelligible being. Stage 3. Esoteric time is where your personality lives: schedules, birthdays, histories, regrets, hopes. Eternity is where your deeper being lives, the dimension in which the whole pattern of your soul is seen at once by the divine, not as a timeline, but as a single form. Timelessness visits you in certain moments: deep meditation, art, love, danger, grief. Revelation, when clock time seems to pause and you feel suspended in a more spacious now. This triad reminds you that while you must honor time, your root is not in it. Part of the work is learning to live in time with a heart tuned to eternity. Triad 85. Multiplicity, structure, unity. Stage 1. Exoteric. Multiplicity, many tasks, roles, desires, perspectives, pulling in different directions. Structure, organizing these elements into some kind of pattern or system. Unity, a sense of coherence. The many serve one overall purpose. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Multiplicity corresponds to the manifold of beings and experiences perceived separately. Structure is logos discerning relations and order among them. Unity is the reflection of the one in many. The soul grasps a higher whole that holds the parts. The triad moves from scattered plurality to pattern to an intimation of underlying oneness. Stage 3. Esoteric multiplicity can feel like chaos. So many demands, identities, truths that you cannot see how they belong together. Structure is the act of drawing lines and circles. These belong to work, these to family, these to practice. This is center, that is periphery. Unity comes when the line work reveals a deeper design. You see how even very different strands of your life are all, in their way, in service to one core movement of the soul. This triad initiates you into seeing your existence not as a pile of fragments, but as a single unfolding pattern. Triad 86. Inner work, world work, divine work. Stage 1. Exoteric. Inner work, self-knowledge, healing, discipline, contemplation, what you do within. World work, your contribution to others, service, craft, care, justice, creativity. Divine work, the larger purpose being carried through both inner and outer efforts. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Inner work refines the individual soul, aligning it with higher realities. World work is the soul's action in the cosmos, ordering the lower according to what it has seen. Divine work is the activity of nous and the good themselves, using the soul as a cooperative instrument. The triad reveals personal and social labor as participation in a cosmic project. Stage 3, esoteric inner work is cleaning the lens. World work is shining that clee and express itself more fully through this corner of the world. Triad 87, personal virtue, soul virtue, divine virtue. Stage 1, exoteric, personal virtue, behaving well by your own lights, honesty, kindness, courage as you understand them. Soul virtue, deeper formation where those qualities are stable traits, not occasional efforts. Divine virtue, the soul's likeness to the divine, acting from a level beyond egoic calculation. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Personal virtue corresponds to civic virtue, socially recognizable goodness. I2. Soul virtue aligns with purificatory and contemplative virtues, the soul ordered around the intelligible. Divine virtue is likeness to God, the soul living from its highest intellect-shaped form. The triad tracks the ascent from ethical effort to ontological resemblance. Stage 3, esoteric personal virtue is where you start, trying to be decent to keep, but increasing congruence with the very character of the good. Triad 88, mind, intellect, 1. Stage 1, exoteric. Mind, your everyday thinking, opinions, plans, analyses. Intellect, the deeper faculty that apprehends principles, patterns, and truths. 1, the ultimate source beyond all thought from which intellect and mind derive. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Mind equals the discursive psyche moving from premise to conclusion. Intellect, nu equals the eternal knowing, where forms are present in a single living act of understanding. The one equals beyond being an intellect, the absolutely simple source of all. The triad is the central Plotinian ladder, from human thinking to divine thinking to the supra-intellectual source. Stage 3, esoteric mind is noisy and necessary. It keeps the calendar, solves problem. Needy is to turn toward and serve what it can never fully grasp. Triad 89, eros, vision, union. Stage 1, exoteric. Eros, longing and desire, for beauty, goodness, truth, or a person. Vision, perceiving clearly the object of that eros, seeing what it truly is. Union, a state of intimate participation or oneness with what you love. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Eros is the soul's dynamic toward the good. It begins mixed and confused. Vision is eros purified by noesis. The soul sees the true nature of what it seeks, 3-5. Union is the soul's conjunction with intellect and, beyond that, its touch of the one, 9. This triad is the heart of Plotinian mysticism, longing, seeing, and becoming one. Stage 3, esoteric eros is the ache that has followed you through every love and low misprojected onto someone or something, but as a direct awareness. Triad 90, final integration, fulfillment, completion. Stage 1, exoteric, final integration, drawing together the insights, healings, and changes of a long process. Fulfillment, the sense that something aimed at has genuinely come into being. Completion, a natural ending. This phase of work is finished. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Integration equals the soul's reorganization after ascent, lower and higher reconciled. Fulfillment reflects the actualization of form. Potential has become stable actuality. Completion is akin to a telos reached. A phase of the soul's becoming has attained its intended shape. The triad marks the closure of a cycle of development. Stage 3, esoteric. Final integration feels like pieces clicking into place. Habits, next project. You let the work seal what has been accomplished. Here are the next 5 triads, 91 to 95, exactly as they appear in your file. Triad 91, knowledge, wisdom, silent knowing. Stage 1, exoteric. Non-formation, facts, theories you can recall and explain. Wisdom, lived understanding, knowing how and when to apply knowledge. Silent knowing, a wordless certainty that does not need to argue or prove itself. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Knowledge is dianoetic content, propositions, concepts. Wisdom is knowledge ordered by the good, integrated into the soul's character. Silent knowing resembles noetic awareness, immediate apprehension, often beyond language. The triad traces the arc from head to heart to being. Stage 3, esoteric knowledge fills shelves and servers. You can possess it while sate, when your very presence carries the truth you once only studied. Triad 92, law, freedom, spontaneity. Stage 1, exoteric. Law, rules, principles, or boundaries that govern behavior. Freedom, the ability to choose within and in relation to those laws. Spontaneity, natural, unforced action that flows from who you have become. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Law equals logos as norm, the pattern things ought to follow. Freedom appears when the soul consciously assents to the good rather than obeying mechanically. Spontaneity as virtue becomes second nature. The soul acts rightly without strain. The triad shows that the highest state is not lawlessness but law, so fully internalized it feels like freedom. Stage 3. Esoteric law is what you need early on. Practices, precepts, disciplines be work in you the more playful, creative, and alive you become. Triad 93. Form, spirit, beyond form. Stage 1. Exoteric. Form, definite shape, roles, rituals, doctrines, images, bodies. Spirit, the life, meaning, or energy within and through those forms. Beyond form, what transcends all particular forms while giving them their depth. Stage 2. Philosophical, structural. Form corresponds to specific logoi and structures in soul and world. Spirit is the living activity of intellect and soul, animating those forms. Beyond form points to the one, which cannot be captured by any image or concept. The triad is an ascent from particular structures through their life to their source. Stage 3. Esoteric form is where you begin and often where you get stuck. Specific, ping your heart free enough to follow the one beyond any vessel. Triad 94. Paths, way, single light. Stage 1. Exoteric. Paths, many traditions, methods, teachers, schools, and styles of practice. Way, the particular path that fits you in this life, your home lineage or approach. Single light, the ultimate reality or truth toward which all genuine paths point. Stage 2, philosophical/structural paths equals the diverse expressions of the soul's search for the good in history and culture. Way equals the soul's specific mode of participation, the logos of its own journey. Single light equals the one or the good, refracted in many but itself undivided. The triad insists on both plurality of expressions and unity of ultimate source. Stage 3, esoteric paths are many. You taste, wander, compare, perhaps judge, weigh I, while honoring the fact that the light is larger than any road. Triad 95, ascent, return, presence in world. Stage 1, exoteric, ascent, moving upward, into understanding, healing, spiritual experience. Return, coming back down into ordinary life, relationships, work. Presence in world, inhabiting the world differently because of what you've seen above. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Ascent, the soul's turning toward intellect in the one, detaching from lower preoccupations. Return equals, it's coming back into the bodily and social, now more ordered. Presence in world, the state where the soul radiates its high, I patient while fully engaged here, like a citizen of two worlds. This triad is the completion of procession, conversion remaining in a life of service. Stage 3, esoteric ascent is the high retreat, the breakthrough, the season of cons, the world, but how you are in the world after you come home. Triad 96, many lives, one story, meaning fulfilled. Stage 1, exoteric, many lives, the sense of multiple chapters, identities, or even incarnations. One story, recognition of an underlying thread tying them together. Meaning fulfilled, the sense that this thread has reached a real intended fruition. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Many lives equals the soul's multiplicity in time, across episodes or embodiments, V3, V8. One story equals the form of the soul's journey as seen from a higher vantage, a single pattern. Meaning fulfilled, the teleological completion of that form in greater likeness to intellect and the good. The triad invites thinking of biography and reincarnation as a coherent spiritual project. Stage 3, esoteric. Many lives, you may sense this as literal reincarnations or more. Work is not in the length of the book, but in the arc it traces. Triad 97, suffering, compassion, mercy. Stage 1, exoteric. Suffering, pain, loss, humiliation, injustice, or deep inner distress. Compassion, feeling with that suffering, your heart moved rather than hardened. Mercy, acting or refraining from acting in a way that lessens suffering, even when strict justice would allow otherwise. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Suffering exposes the fragility of composite existence and the tension between lower and higher goods. Compassion arises as the soul recognizes its kinship with others. The same structure, the same vulnerability. Mercy reflects participation in the good's overflowing generosity, not just balance, but benevolence beyond strict desert. The triad charts a movement from raw experience, shared heart, godlike forbearance. Stage 3, esoteric suffering by itself can shrink the heart or open it. Compassion, who sustains all beings even as they misunderstand or ignore it. Triad 98, judgment, truth, equanimity. Stage 1, exoteric. Judgment, evaluating people, situations, and yourself, often quickly and harshly. Truth, seeing more accurately what is the case, beyond projections and biases. Equanimity, a balanced state in which you can hold what is true without rage, denial, or collapse. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Judgment is the operation of discernment, but colored by passion and self-interest. Truth corresponds to alignment with logos, things seen as they are, in proportion. Equanimity is the soul's stable posture under truth, the calm of intellect, fully aware, yet undisturbed in its core. The triad trains the judging faculty to become an organ of reality, not of ego defense. Stage 3, esoteric judgment is a crude tool at first. You slice the world into good, red, to name what is without burning yourself or others with it. Triad 99, ego shadow, inner light, transparency. Stage 1, exoteric. Ego shadow, the zone feared or hidden aspects of yourself, traits you reject or deny. Inner light, the awareness that can see those aspects without being them. Transparency, a state where there is little left to hide, you are what you seem, inwardly and outwardly. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Ego shadow equals lower powers and patterns exiled from conscious self-image. Inner light equals the higher soul or intellective spark, capable of illuminating these without annihilation. Transparency, the soul increasingly living in truthful self-peons, a likeness to intellect's clarity without concealment. The triad moves from repression, illumination, unified simplicity. Stage 3, esoteric ego shadow is everything you insist you are not. Needy, cruel, your presence becomes clear water for the work to shine through. Triad 100, separation, union, non-duality. Stage 1, exoteric. Separation, experiencing yourself as fundamentally apart from others, nature, the divine. Union, profound moments of connection with a person, group, world, or presence. Non-duality, glimpses or realization that the apparent separation was never ultimate. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Separation equals the soul's immersion in particularity, identifying as a discrete I opposed to not I. Union equals the soul's participation in higher levels, intellect, or even contact with the One, where distances lessen. Non-duality equals an approximation to the state of the One, in which distinctions are overcome, though not necessarily erased. The triad summarizes the deepest arc, from alienation to communion to the One beyond all two-ness. Stage 3. Esoteric separation is where almost all ordinary perception lives. I am nihilo, but to awaken to a unity that was never actually broken. Triad 101. Quivering, stillness, silence. Quivering, subtle agitation, anticipation, anxiety, excitement, nervous energy. Stillness, the calming of that movement, body and mind settle. Silence, a deeper quiet beyond the absence of noise, a sense of profound inward hush. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Quivering shows the unsettled psychic life, always slightly off-center. Stillness is the soul's recollection into itself, less driven by external stimuli. Silence evokes the apophatic nearness of the One, beyond images and words, known by a kind of unknowing, 9. The triad charts the soul's approach to the ineffable source. Stage 3. Esoteric quivering isn't always dramatic. It's the constant tiny tremor of what next? How did I do? Who's watching? Stillness begins with small obediences. Sitting down, breathing, turning off the feed, letting the muscles unclench. Silence is what gradually emerges behind that. Not just a quieter mind, but an awareness of a depth that never quivered in the first place. This triad is one of the inner thresholds. The more often you let quivering resolve into stillness and stillness deepen into silence, the more available you are for the highest contact. Triad 102. Choices. Age 1 exoteric. Choices. Individual decision act day. Pattern, the shape formed by many choices over time. Purpose, the deeper orientation or meaning that your pattern reveals. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Choices are acts of the self-moving soul, each tuning its character. Pattern is the emerging hexis, stable disposition and life trajectory. Purpose is the soul's telos as it appears in time, the way its eternal form makes itself felt in history. The triad ties daily volition to higher destiny. Stage 3. Esoteric choices feel isolated when you're in them. This job or that. Speak or stay silent. Scroll or pray. Pattern is what you see when you step back. Over years, I have tended to move toward this and away from that. Purpose glimmers through the pattern. You start to sense what your life has been about all along, even when you weren't conscious of it. This triad encourages a reverent audit, By examining your pattern, you can cooperate more intelligently with the purpose trying to unfold through you rather than fighting or ignoring it. Triad 103, Identity, Function, Role, File Site Turn 86, File 12, L30-L34, Turn 86, Identity, who you experience yourself doing, the kind of work you naturally perform in systems. Role, the A given context, family, community, organization. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural, Identi Soul's logoi, its inherent pattern. Function is that pattern in operation, benefiting the untingent expression of function in concrete arrangements. The triad helps distinguish eternal pattern from temporary assignment. Stage 3. Esoteric identity is tricky. Some of it is true essence, some of it is story. Function is often clearer. When you look at your life, you see consistent ways you end up serving, mediating, initiate, connecting. Role is the costume function wears in different plays. A job title, a family position, a public label. This triad invites you to root yourself more in function than in role. Roles will change or vanish, but the function flowing from your deeper identity tends to persist, life after life and chapter after chapter. Triad 104, Clarity, Direction, Guidance. Stage 1, Exoteric. Clarity, seeing your situation and options with fewer illusions. Direction, choosing a path based on that clarity. Guidance, receiving ongoing irming, adjusting, or refining that direction. All clarity is the presence of logos in perception. The soul sees according to truth rather than fantasy. Direction is the soul's practical reason, setting a course toward its good. Guidance reflects the interaction of the soul's chosen course with providence, synchronicities, checks, and confirmations. The triad links inner seeing, will, and cosmic feedback. Stage 3. Esoteric clarity may come suddenly or slowly, but when it lands, you know. That relationship is done. This work is mine. That habit must go. Direction is when you honor that knowing by committing, writing the email, booking the course, declining the offer. Guidance is the ongoing dance of signs and corrections that follows, dreams, delays, openings, and obstacles that nudge your path into truer alignment. This triad trains you to treat life itself as a dialogue. You choose, reality answers, and together you refine the way. Triad 105. Impulse of good, right measure, divine order. Stage 1, Exoteric. Impulse of good, spontaneous desire to help, create, protect, or tell the truth. Right measure, shaping that impulse so it is proportionate, timely, and wise. Divine order, the larger patch your deeds fit. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. The MD, however imperfectly, with the good. Right measure is phronesis, practical wisdom that calibrates good intentions to real conditions. Divine order is the cosmic harmony in which each rightly measured act takes its place, however small. The triad prevents the good from becoming fanaticism by wedding zeal to measure. Stage 3. Esoteric impulse of good is a warm surge. You want to fix, rescue, reveal, build. Left unchecked, it can become intrusion, burnout, or violence. Right measure is the tempering fire. You ask, is this mine to do? How much? When? With whom? Divine order is the wideness that holds both your action and your restraint. You trust that the good is at work even where you cannot or should not intervene. This triad refines your service so it harmonizes with the greater choreography instead of trying to run the whole dance. Triad 106, Quivering, Stillness, Silence. Stage 1, Exoteric. Quivering, the subtle tremble as you approach the threshold of something greater. Fear, awe, longing. Stillness, the stabilization of that tremble into a steady, quiet presence. Silence, the deeper, wordless state in which even inner commentary drops away. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. Quivering marks the soul's transitional state between dispersion and recollection. Stillness indicates the soul gathered in itself, like intellect in its stable act. Silence hints at the one's mode, beyond thought and speech, pure superabundant presence. The triad suggests a passage from psychic vibration to noetic rest, and finally to the border of the one. Stage 3. Esoteric quivering is what you feel in real approach, before an initiation, before a truth, before a real surrender. Part of you wants to rush forward, part of you wants to run. Stillness is when you stop trying to manage the threshold and simply stand in it. Breath slow, attention steady, ready but not forcing. Silence is what sometimes descends when this is sustained. Not emptiness, but a density of presence that needs no words. This triad is one of the inner thresholds. The more often you let quivering resolve into stillness, and stillness deepen into silence, the more available you are for the highest contact. Triad 107. Individuating, universalization, cosmic identity. Stage 1 exoteric. Individuation, becoming a distinct integrated person, owning your uniqueness. Universalization, realizing how much of your story is shared, sensing common patterns. Cosmic identity, experiencing yourself as part of, and in some sense identical with, the life of the cosmos. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Individuation equals the soul consolidating its singular logos, a coherent this one. Universalization equals recognition that this logos is an instance of universal forms and structures. Cosmic identity, the soul's awareness of its place within world soul and its deeper root in new and the one, Ivor 9. The triad expands the sense of self from private to archetypal to cosmic. Stage 3. Esoteric individuation is necessary. You come out of fusion with family, tribe, and projections, and stand as I, with your own boundaries and voice. Universalization is the humbling and comforting realization that your very personal saga is also mythic. Others have walked this path. Archetypes are moving through you. Cosmic identity dawns in moments when the sense of I widens into we. You feel yourself as a cell in a vast body, even briefly as the whole body looking out through this cell. This triad completes the healing of isolation. You become more fully yourself while also knowing that yourself is a local expression of something immeasurably larger. Owl light, one light. Stage 1 exoteric. Ray, a single beam, your particular perspective, life, and consciousness. Light, the shared luminosity that makes all rays possible. Being, awareness, goodness. One light, the single source from which all lights emanate and in which they are one. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Ray equals an individual soul, a finite participation in intelligible being. Light equals nu, the intelligible realm, many forms in one living act. One light, the one good, beyond even intellect, the utterly simple source of all radiance. This triad is a pure metaphysical icon, from finite participation to intelligible field to absolute source. Stage 3. Esoteric. You are a ray, limited, angled, colored by your history, but truly luminous. Light is what you touch in moments of insight, love, creation, and worship, a sense of something bright and benign that is not just yours, but running through you. One light is the unthinkable center from which every ray, every sun, every galaxy's worth of shining comes forth, and into which all returns. This triad closes the greater mysteries. It names your life as a ray called to remember the light, and finally to know itself as never separate from the one light that is all in all. Triad 109. Emanation Stage 1. Exoteric, the one, ultimate source, beyond all qualities. Overflowing good, its sheer generosity, the why behind creation. Emanation, the outflow of beings from that source. Stage 2, philosophical structural. The one eats beyond being and thought. Absolutely simple, Sic 9. Overflowing good equals its superabundance, the good cannot help but give. Emanation equals the procession of intellect, soul, and world from that inexhaustible source. Stage 3, esoteric. This triad says, the root of everything is not chaos or accident, but an indescribable good. You and this cosmos are not added later. You are part of the one's overflow. Emanation is that overflow traced all the way down into your particular life. When you work with the triads at all, you are essentially learning to follow the emanation back to its source in the one. Triad 110. Unity, silent power, first unity, undivided wholeness. Silent power, potential not yet expressed but fully present. First light, the first dawning of differentiation and awareness. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Unity reflects the one's simplicity. Silent power hints at the pregnant stillness before procession. First light is nous arising, the dawn of intelligible being. Stage 3, esoteric unity is the hidden ground of your being before any story. Silent power is what you feel in deep stillness, not emptiness, but compressed possibility. First light is that first subtle something that appears in meditation or insight, when the dark is not gone but is beginning to glow. This triad maps the threshold between the ineffable and the knowable. 1. Nous, soul. Stage 1, exoteric 1, absolute source. Intellect, realm of pure ideas and living truth. Soul, mediator between intelligible and physical realms. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. 1. Nous. Soul is the classic three-hypostasis structure. Nu contemplates the one and contains all forms at once. Soul contemplates Nu and unfolds time, motion, and world. Stage 3, esoteric. This is also your inner ladder, a deepest root in the one, a higher mind in you that remembers truth, and the everyday psyche living in time, soul. Whenever you turn inward and upward from reactions soul to clear seeing, nous, and then to a sense of wordless source, 1, you are moving along this triad. It's a compact blueprint of your whole metaphysical identity. Triad 112, soul, nature, body. Stage 1, exoteric. Soul, living center. Who animates you? Nature, the ordering principle that shapes bodies, instincts, ecosystems. Body, your physical form and its conditions. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Soul is prior to nature and body. It gives them life. Nature is soul's law outwardly expressed in the sensible realm. Body is the last term, the end point of the emanative chain. Stage 3, esoteric. You are not just a body having a soul. You are a soul expressing through nature and body. Patterns in your nature, temperament, tendencies, and even some bodily conditions are downstream of soul habits. Work at the soul level, attention, eros, virtue, and over time, nature softens and the body's life becomes a clearer, kinder expression. This triad reminds you to treat the body with respect, but to look upstream when you want deep change. Triad 113, proceeding, standing, returning. Stage 1, exoteric. Proceeding, going out, moving away from origin. Standing, stabilizing in a position or state. Returning, going back toward where you came from. Stage 2, philosophical /leggy. Structural, proceeding equals procession of beings from the one. Standings, each level's abiding in its own nature. Returning equals epistrophe, the turn back to source. Stage 3, esoteric. You live this rhythm constantly. You go out into activity, stand in some role or situation, then feel the pull to come home, to yourself, to the inner, to the higher. On a larger scale, an incarnation proceeds into the world, stands in its particular lessons, then returns to subtler levels. Practically, this triad asks you to honor all three. Go out fully, stand faithfully, and consciously return instead of getting lost in perpetual proceeding with no homecoming. Triad 14, being, life, intellect. Stage 1, exoteric, being, that it is, existence. Life, movement, growth, experience. Intellect, capacity to know truth. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Being, life, and intellect are core attributes of nous. Being equals stability of form. Life equals self-movement and self-relation. Intellect, self-knowing of the intelligible. Stage 3, esoteric. You touch being when you simply rest in I am. You taste life in the felt flow of sensations, emotions, relationships. You exercise intellect whenever you seek, recognize, and love truth. All three are present in you at once, but usually tangled. The work steadies being, so you are less fragile, clarifies intellect, so you see truer, and ennobles life, so your energy serves what you've seen. This triad trains you to sense these three layers in yourself and in everything you meet. Triad 115, intellect, logos, world. Stage 1, exoteric, intellect, realm of archetypal ideas. Logos, rational pattern expressing those ideas. World, concrete manifestation shaped by that pattern. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Intellect equals all forms at once. Logos equals the ordering word that carries forms into soul and nature. World, the visible result of logos operating in matter. Stage 3, esoteric. Behind every event there is a world. Behind every world pattern a logos. And behind every logos a living intellect. You can learn to read situations this way. Rather than just what happened, you ask what pattern is this enacting? And what truth about soul or reality is showing through here? In your own life, the more consciously you align your inner logos, your stories, choices, and commitments with higher intellect, the more your outer world gradually reflects that alignment. ENNEADS. Stage 1, exoteric. 1, absolute source. New intellect, realm of pure ideas and living truth. Soul, mediator between intelligible and physical realms. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. 1, new soul is the classic three-hypostasis structure. Nu contemplates the one and contains all forms at once. Soul contemplates Nu and unfolds time, motion, and world. Stage 3, esoteric. This is also your inner ladder. A deepest root in the one, a higher mind in Nu, and your everyday psyche is soul. When you refine attention and desire, you are literally helping your soul listen more to Nu, and through Nous, remember the One. This triad is a compact blueprint of your whole metaphysical identity. Triad 112. Soul, nature, body. Stage 1, exoteric. Soul, living center. Who animates you? Nature, the ordering principle that shapes bodies, instincts, ecosystems. Body, your physical form and its conditions. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Soul is prior to nature and body. It gives them life. Nature is soul's law outwardly expressed in the sensible realm. Body is the last term, the endpoint of the emanative chain. Stage 3, esoteric. You're not a body that happens to have a soul. You are a soul using a body through the mediating laws of nature. When you work with your body through health, posture, breath, you are indirectly working with nature and soul. This triad reminds you that embodiment is an expression of a much higher lineage, not an exile from it. Triad 113. Proceeding, standing, returning. Stage 1. Exoteric. Proceeding. Going out, moving away from origin. Standing, stabilizing in a position or state. Returning, going back toward where you came from. Stage 2. Philosophical structural. Proceeding equals procession of beings from the One. Standing equals each level's abiding in its own nature. Returning equals epistrophe, the turn back to source. Stage 3. Esoteric. You live this each day. You go out into activity, stand in some identity, and then feel the pull to return, home, to yourself, to God. Spiritually, proceeding is incarnation, standing is the learning of a particular life, returning is the ascent. This triad is the rhythm of the entire golden circle in 3 words. Triad 114, being, life, intellect. Stage 1, exoteric, being, that it is, existence, life, movement, growth, experience, intellect, capacity to know truth. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Being, life, and intellect are core attributes of nous. Being, stability of form. Life equals self-movement and self-relation. Intellect equals self-knowing of the intelligible. Stage 3, esoteric. You touch being when you simply rest in I am. You taste life when that being flows as feeling, time, stories. You taste intellect when all of that is illumined from within by clear understanding. This triad trains you to sense these 3 layers in yourself and in everything you meet. Triad 115, intellect, logos, world. Stage 1, exoteric. Intellect, realm of archetypal ideas. Logos, rational pattern expressing those ideas. World, concrete manifestation shaped by that pattern. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Intellect equals all forms at once. Logos, the ordering word that carries forms into soul and nature. World, the visible result of logos operating in matter. Stage 3, esoteric. Behind every event there is a pattern. Behind every pattern, a living idea. Intellect holds the pure forms. Logos is the continuous speaking of those forms into reality. The world is that speech heard in stone and flesh. This triad invites you to read the world as script. Every situation encodes a logos, which in turn reflects intellect. OOD, beautiful, true. Stage 1, exoteric, good, that which genuinely benefits and fulfills. Beautiful, that which delights and attracts by its form. True, that which corresponds with reality. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Good equals the ultimate principle, everything seeks it. Beautiful's the shining of form, the good made visible. True equals agreement of intellect with being, the good known. Stage 3, esoteric. Good is what your deepest heart wants. Beautiful is how the good gets your attention. True is what happens when your seeing aligns with the good structure. This triad says, follow beauty toward truth, and through truth into the good. All 3 are different faces of one reality. Triad 117, one, many, one in many. Stage 1, exoteric, one unity, many, multiplicity, diversity. One in many, unity expressed through diversity. Stage 2, philosophical, structural, one equals source. Many equals emanated multiplicity. One in many equals the way the one inheres in all without being divided. Stage 3, esoteric. You see the one in the quiet. You see the many in the busy world. You see one in many when suddenly the many shimmer as expressions of one life. This triad attunes you to that shimmer, the capacity to feel the unity running through differences without erasing them. Triad 118, law, order, freedom. Stage 1, exoteric. Law, the rules or principles running reality. Order, how those laws arrange things. Freedom, the space to act meaningfully within that order. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Law equals logos baked into cosmos. Order equals the harmonious hierarchy those laws generate. Freedom equals the soul's ability to cooperate consciously with that order. Stage 3. Esoteric. At first, law feels like restriction. You bump into consequences. As you see the order behind it, you realize the laws are the way the good keeps things coherent. Freedom appears when you stop fighting the existence of law and start playing with it, like a dancer with gravity. This triad reframes cosmic law as the very environment in which your deepest liberty becomes possible. Triad 119, gift, task, account. Stage 1, exoteric, gift, what you are given, talents, opportunities, help, task, what these gifts enable and ask of you, account, the reckoning with how you use them. Stage 2, philosophical, structural, gift equals grace, unearned influx from above, task equals ergon, your work according to your form. Account equals judgment, the weighing of how well you conform to your nature and calling. Stage 3, esoteric gifts are not ornaments, they are assignments. Task is the shape your gratitude takes in time. Account is not meant to terrorize you, but to honor the seriousness of your freedom. What you are given is meant to flow through you, not stop with you. This triad places vocation inside a sacred economy. Everything received is also a trust. Triad 120, seed, growth, fruit. Stage 1, exoterimal, often hidden form. Growth, gradual development through time and conditions. Fruit, the mature result that feeds others and carries new seeds. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Seed equals initial logos or intention. Growth equals the working out of that logos amid resistance and support. Fruit equals completed form, now able to nourish and propagate. Stage 3, esoteric. Every practice, relationship, and work begins as seed, tiny, vulnerable, easy to overlook or dismiss. Growth is slow, uneven, sometimes invisible from inside the process. Fruit is when the thing that once depended on you begins to feed others and to generate new seeds beyond your control. This triad invites patience. You're not judged on seed size or growth speed, but on whether your life eventually bears real fruit. Triad 121, veil, revelation, responsibility. Stage 1, exoteric, veil, something hidden, partial concealment. Revelation, lifting of the veil, something becomes clear. Responsibility, what you must now do because you know. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Veil equals necessary obscurity, lower levels cannot bear full light. Revelation equals higher reality self-disclosing to a prepared soul. Responsibility equals the ethical demand of received light. Knowledge implies response. Stage 3. Esoteric veils are merciful. They hide what would overwhelm or be misused. Revelation comes when you are ripe enough that a veil can thin, suddenly you see the pattern, the lie, the truth. Responsibility is what differentiates revelation from curiosity. The work expects your life, not just your notebook, to change around what you've seen. This triad defines the ethos of the hidden mysteries. Secrets are not for status, but for service. Triad 122, outer rite, interchange, seal. Stage 1, exoteric, outer rite, ceremony, ritual, or formal action. Interchange, real shift in heart, mind, or soul. Seal, a lasting mark of that change. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Outer rite works on imagination and body to ready the soul. Interchange is the actual transformation in the psychic and noetic levels. Seal is the established hexis. The change has become part of your form. Stage 3. Esoteric rites by themselves are choreography. When performed with presence and right intention, they can open doors the soul might otherwise never approach. Interchange is the invisible sacrament behind the visible one. Seal is when, long after the ritual, something in you simply is different. Less prone to some old pattern, more available to some new grace. This triad reminds you that true initiation is measured in being, not in ceremonies completed. Triad 123. Ignorance, initiation, continuation. Stage 1, exoteric. Ignorance, not knowing, living in unawareness of deeper realities. Initiation, a threshold event that introduces you to those realities. Continuation, the long walk of living, what initiation showed you. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Ignorance is the soul's forgetfulness of its origin and goal. Initiation equals a decisive epistrophe moment, something higher breaks in. Continuation, the ongoing conversion of the whole soul in light of that break. Stage 3, esoteric ignorance is normal life before the work. You may be kind or cruel, but you don't know what you don't know. Initiation is the moment the curtain twitches. A night, a teacher, a crisis, a vision that redefines real. Continuation is everything after the high. Practice, stumble, integrate, repeat. This triad guards against fetishizing the threshold. The point is not to be initiated once, but to keep walking as an initiate. Triad 24, symbol, meaning, participation. Stage 1, exoteric. Symbol, a form that points to something beyond itself. Meaning, what that symbol signifies. Participation, sharing in the reality the symbol points to. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Symbol, sensible, or psychic image. Meaning equals intelligible content behind the image. Participation, methexis, the soul actually partaking of the intelligible. Stage 3, esoteric. At first, symbols are just interesting images. Then you sense their meaning. Cross, circle, fire, triad. Each carries depth. Participation is when you stop standing outside the symbol and step through it. You don't just think light, you let your life be lit. You don't just admire cross, you let something in you die and rise. This triad is the key to sacred language. Its purpose is always participatory, not merely descriptive. Triad 125, 3, triad ternary law. Stage 1, exoteric. 3, the number after 2, simple count. Triad, a structured grouping of 3 terms. Ternary law, the principle that processes often move in threefold patterns. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. 3 marks a move from duality to mediated relation, not just A-B, but the relation between them. Triad in your system equals movement, from first term through second to third. Ternary law equals the insight that emanation, transformation, and return often resolve as triple rhythms. Stage 3. Esoteric. 3 is simple, but everywhere. Beginning, middle, end, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, body, soul, spirit. Triad is 3 seen as a living arc, not just a count. Ternary law is the intuition that reality loves this pattern. It moves from origin through differentiation into a new, fuller unity. This triad reveals why your whole system is triadic. It resonates with the way being itself unfolds. Stage 1, exoteric. Circle, closed loop, returning to where you started. Spiral, loop that either widens or tightens, same direction, new height or depth. Helix, 3-dimensional spiral, movement in depth and around. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Circle is repetition, cycles of time and habit. Spiral equals developmental repetition, patterns revisited at new levels. Helix equals richer model of soul's ascent, combining cycles with vertical growth. Stage 3, esoteric. You live circles when you repeat the same story with no gain. You live spirals when you revisit issues but with more understanding each time. Helix is the hidden geometry of real evolution. You come back to the same themes, but now carrying more light and depth, weaving a 3-dimensional path. This triad is the shape of the golden circle itself as an initiatory path. Triad 127. Gate, path, city. Stage 1, exoteric. Gate, entrance or threshold. Path, the way you travel after passing through. City, the destination, a complex living order. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Gate equals initiation point, a decision or event. Path equals process, the unfolding of the soul's journey. City is formed community order, symbol of the soul integrated into the larger whole. Stage 3, esoteric gate is the moment you step over a line. You can't unknow what you now know. Path is the long series of days where that decision is either honored or betrayed. City is both inner and outer, the integrated inner world you build and the real-world communities that reflect it. This triad says, respect gates, but don't confuse them with the city. The work is in the miles, not just the doorway. Triad 128, Golden Ratio, Proportion, Harmony. Stage 1, Exoteric, Golden Ratio, special mathematical proportion that appears in nature and art. Proportion, right relative sizing of parts. Harmony, pleasing, coherent whole born of good proportion. Stage 2, Philosophical, Structural. Golden Ratio is an image of hidden order behind appearances. Proportion is central to Plotinian beauty, form meeting matter in fitting measure. Harmony is the soul's and cosmos's musical alignment with the good. Stage 3, Esoteric. The Golden Ratio is a whisper. There is order inside the seeming chaos. Proportion in your life is the wise allocation of time, energy, attention, nothing too starved or bloated. Harmony is the felt music when your proportions match what your soul and the work require. This triad inscribes the Golden Ratio into your praxis. The poem, the calendar, the book, the relationships all want hidden rightness of scale. Triad 29, Map, territory, lord of the land. Stage 1, exoteric, map, representation, model, or theory. Territory, the actual lived reality. Lord of the land, the underlying principle or presence owning both. Stage 2, philosophical, structural, map equals logos and doctrine, mental constructions. Territory equals experienced world and soul. Lord of the land equals the good, one that both map and territory depend on. Stage 3 esoteric maps are necessary. Without them you wander. But no map is the land. Territory is where blisters, weather, and beauty teach you what the map never showed. Lord of the land is the recognition that even territory is not ultimate. There is a presence whose domain it is, and whose will and wisdom exceed all your representations. This triad asks you to use maps, walk the land, and never forget the one who made and sustains it. Triad 130, teacher, companion, witness. Stage 1, exoteric, teacher, one who instructs and guides. Companion, one who walks alongside. Witness, one who simply sees and remembers truthfully. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Teacher reflects higher to lower transmission. Companion reflects equal to equal mutuality. Witness reflects a more impersonal noetic function, presence that confirms and mirrors reality. Stage 3, esoteric. Teacher gives you frameworks and practices. Companion shares the road, mistakes, and small joys. Much of the work would be unbearable without them. Witness is the subtle role you grow into. You become someone in whose gaze others feel more real and more seen, and in whose inner court their growth is silently celebrated. This triad also describes how the divine meets you, instructing, accompanying, and bearing witness to what you become. System, field, presence. Stage 1, exoteric. System, a set of interrelated parts with structure and rules. Field, the invisible atmosphere or energetic context systems exist in. Presence, concentrated awareness or being that can shape a field directly. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. System equals explicit logoi and arrangement, doctrines, practices, organizations. Field equals psychic, noetic environment generated by many logoi together. Presence, the intensified activity of soul or higher that conditions the field beyond structure alone. Stage 3, esoteric systems matter. Your triads, your schedule, your rituals. Fields matter more. The felt tone of a group, a lineage, a room. Presence is what a realized person, a deep soul, or a blessing brings. Without speaking, they shift the field. This triad reminds you that the end of system building is not better systems alone, but a field permeated by presence. Triad 132, hidden, known, hidden and known. Stage 1, exoteric, hidden, not yet revealed, known, brought into awareness. Hidden and known, what remains mysterious even inside what is known. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Hidden equals apophatic side of reality. Known equals cataphatic disclosure, concepts, images, insights. Hidden and known equals recognition that even revelation has a beyond. Stage 3, esoteric. The hidden lures you, the promise of secrets. The known satisfies and humbles you. What was once opaque becomes clear. Hidden and known is the mature stance. Even what you understand carries edges that fade into mystery. This triad keeps your knowledge porous and reverent. Every revelation includes a reminder that the one always exceeds your grasp. Triad 133, great year. Cycle, turning. Stage 1, exoteric, great year, large-scale cycle, cosmic, historical, or karmic. Cycle, recurring pattern within that larger span. Turning, the moment the cycle shifts to a new phase. Stage 2, philosophical, structural, great year equals the macro rhythm of cosmos and world soul. Cycles equals sub-patterns, ages, aeons, personal epochs. Turning equals critical kairoi, when a new arrangement begins. Stage 3, esoteric. Your life sits inside cycles you barely see. Cultural tides, planetary seasons, collective karma. Great year is the unimaginably vast context of these. Turning is felt as the strange tension before big shifts, globally or personally, when the old pattern no longer holds, and the new one is not yet secured. This triad is a reminder to read your story, not just day to day, but in terms of longer curves and decisive turnings. Triad 134. Dune, dusk, stage 1, exoteric. Dawn, beginning, first light. Noon, peak, full light. Dusk, decline, fading light. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Dawn equals incipient manifestation. Noon equals full actualization. Dusk equals receding into potential, prelude to night and new dawn. Stage 3, esoteric. Every project, relationship, incarnation moves through these phases. Dawn is hope and fragility, noon is clarity, power, achievement, dusk is letting go, handing over, returning. This triad softens your fear of endings. Dusk is not failure, but the way light makes room for new forms. Triad 135, birth of work, maturity of work, death of work. Stage 1, exoteric, birth of work, launching a project, mission, or teaching. Maturity of work, when it stands on its own, functioning as intended. Death of work, when it ends, transforms, or is taken out of your hands. Stage 2, philosophical/structural. Birth equals seed of logos planted in time. Maturity equals form clearly manifest in world and souls. Death equals reabsorption into the field, making way for new logoi. Stage 3, esoteric. Your work, like everything, has a life cycle. Birth is fragile and thrilling. You protect, nurture, believe. Maturity is what you hoped for and rarely recognize while it's happening. Death of work is hard, decline, distortion, or simple completion. This triad invites you to release attachment to immortality of form. What matters is that the work did what it was sent to do while alive. Triad 136, initiate, adept, elder. Initiate, newly entered, learning basics. Adept, practiced, skilled and stable in the path. Elder, seasoned, carrying wisdom and responsibility for others. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Initiate equals soul newly turning toward the intelligible. Adept equals soul with virtue and vision, robustly formed. Elder equals soul whose focus is now transmission and care as much as its own ascent. Stage 3, esoteric initiate is full of fire and fragility. Everything is new. Adept knows the terrain and their own shadow. The work has moved from excitement to fidelity. Elder carries scars and radiance, caring less about experiences and more about shepherding others and staying true. This triad holds up a sober, non-glamorous view of progress. More light, more responsibility, more love. Triad 137, solitude, communion, companionship of light. Stage 1, exoteric, or outwardly. Communion, deep connection with the divine with others, or both. Companionship of light, ongoing fellowship among those who share the work. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Solitude equals soul standing in itself. Communion, soul sharing in higher being and other souls. Companionship of light equals a noetic community, many souls jointly turned toward the one. Stage 3, esoteric solitude is where you stop echoing others long enough to hear your own soul and the divine. Communion is when that listening opens into real meeting, seen and unseen allies, human and more than human. Companionship of light is the enduring network of such bonds, people, living and dead, and intelligences whose shared aim is the good. This triad widens your sense of family across planes and lifetimes. Triad 138, text, lived lineage, invisible church. Stage 1, exoteric, text, writings, teachings, ed lineage, the community that embodies and passes on those texts. Invisible church, the deeper communion of all souls aligned with truth and love across forms. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Text equals logoi fixed in words. Lived lineage equals world soul articulating those logoi through time. Invisible church equals the noetic assembly of all who participate in the same light, whatever surface form. Stage 3, esoteric text is precious but inert without bodies and hearts. Lived lineage is messy and holy, fallible people fumbling to transmit something larger than them. Invisible church is the secret coherence beneath all true lineages. Wherever real love of the good lives, there is this church. This triad keeps you loyal to your texts and lineages while freeing you from sectarian blindness. Triad 139, first reader, 100th reader, unknown soul. Stage 1, exoteric, first reader, the one who receives the work directly from air, later recipients, far down the line. Unknown soul, someone you will never meet whose life is changed by the work. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. First reader equals direct contact between logos and psyche. 100th reader equals mediated contact through tradition and history. Unknown soul, the open-endedness of the work's influence in world soul. Stage 3, esoteric. You might be a first reader, catching something fresh, or 100th, receiving it polished or ways involved. Someone you'll never know will be steadied or re-aimed by a line, a choice, a kindness that ripples outward. This triad encourages humility and courage. You will not see most of your impact. Do the work anyway. Triad 140, forgetting the work, remembering the work, going beyond the work. Stage 1, exoteric, forgetting the work, losing tie, remembering the work, coming back to them. Going beyond the work, reach of the work fall away into simple being. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Forgetting equals soul's descent into distraction. Remembering equals recollection, turning back to its project. Going beyond the work, soul's rest in the one, beyond methods and forms. Stage 3, esoteric. You will forget. This is not a glitch. It is gravity. You will remember, the triads, your vows, the taste of silence. Going beyond the work is rarer. It is when even your beloved structures fall quiet because their job is done for a time. There is just being, love, awareness. This triad keeps you from both despair at forgetting and idolatry of method. Triad of triads, single axis. Stage 1, exoteric. Triad 1 threefold movement. Triad of triads, 3 triads together as a higher pattern. Single axis, the underlying line all these movements express. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Triad equals local process. Triad of triads equals metastructure, like your 9s, 12s, 36. Single axis equals the single movement of soul from 1 through multiplicity back to 1. Stage 3, esoteric. You can read any one triad as a small teaching. Triads of triads show larger rhythms, chapters, veils, bands. Single axis is the real secret. All of them are expressions of one movement out from the one, learning and home. This triad is the key that lets you see your whole architecture as one gesture. Golden circle, hidden core, unknown source. Stage 1, exoteric, golden circle, the complete 144 triad architecture. Hidden core, the 35 veils plus the inner axis. Unknown source, the mystery from which even this system arises. Stage 2, philosophical, structural. Golden circle equals a symbolic cosmos of your work. Hidden core equals the initiatory spinal column, veils as vertical gates. Unknown source, the one, which is beyond any system, including this one. Stage 3, esoteric, the golden circle is your great map. Hidden core is the shaft that runs through it, opening level by level into depth. Unknown source is the stark humility. Even this beautiful, intricate system is a finger toward a moon it can never fully contain. This triad invites you to love the structure fiercely and bow beyond it. Triad 143, closure, rest, new call. Stage 1, exoteric. Closure, finishing a cycle, project, or phase. Rest, stopping to recover and integrate. New call, the next invitation that arises from silence. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Closure equals telos reached at a given level. Rest equals soul's Sabbath, a pause in energeia. New calls, fresh procession, a new movement from the one through soul. Stage 3, esoteric closure is hard if you've built identity on the thing ending. Rest is even harder in a culture addicted to constant motion. New call is what will inevitably come if you honor both. From the quiet, another note sounds, a different kind of work, or a deeper turn in the same. This triad keeps your journey cyclical, not stagnant. You really end, really rest, really begin again. Triad 144. Alpha, omega, alpha in omega. Stage 1, exoteric, alpha, omega end. Alpha in omega, the beginning found again inside the end. Stage 2, philosophical structural. Alpha equals first emanation, origin. Omega equals completed return. Alpha in omega equals realization that origin and fulfillment coincide in the one's eternal now. Stage 3, esoteric. There was a first moment of awakening for you in this work, your alpha. There will be endings of this poem, of this life, of this whole architecture's active phase, your omegas. Alpha in omega is the mystery that when you truly come home, you discover you never left. The one held the whole curve in a single, timeless act. This final triad seals the circle. The end is a beginning recognized, and your ray knows itself as always already in the one light.